Hello and welcome to the Record Players podcast. So we are three friends and fellow music enthusiasts. So our episodes include a mixture of recent album reviews, tier lists, topical musical discussions, debates, and more. So my name's Harry. Do you want to introduce yourself, guys?
My name's Dennis.
And my name's Jack.
Cool. So on today's episode, we are going to discuss and rank the album discography of a Mr. Kanye West. So what can be said about this guy? So rapper, songwriter, producer, record label exec, businessman, fashion designer, politician, and an outspoken figure of constant controversy for nearly 2 decades now. So, I mean, I've definitely had moments in my life where I've loved and respected this guy, and I've equally had moments where I've hated his guts. But one thing I could always say is that his music's kept me coming back since the beginning, and I think he's one of the most important and influential musical artists of the 21st century. So, just before we get into it, what are your thoughts, guys? Agree, disagree? What's your journey with Kanye?
He's probably the most gifted producer for the last, I don't know, decade to 20 years, however long it's been going. Just because of the diversity of work, the consistent high quality. Other rappers or other producers, you can see them kind of falling into some traps or having repetitiveness, but he's always been innovative.
For sure.
I don't think he's ever lived up to the level of his production in his vocal. So I think there's definitely some moments where he shines, but he's, as a producer, you can't floor him, I think.
I would agree. I would say the production is the main thing, and the artistry also is up there. The rapping has highs and lows, but isn't necessarily the thing I would go to every time. Dennis, what about you? What's your thoughts on Kanye before we get into this?
Yeah, very much on the same page as Jack there and you there in terms of I've always respected him as a producer. I think as a producer, he's right up there with the greats. He's right up there with Dr. Dre, right up there with DJ Premier. He's a legendary producer. But yeah, in terms of his lyrics, very, very hit and miss. His lyrics have always fallen short of his production. And I'd like to go into that a little bit once we start talking album from album. I think there are some albums that his lyrics are on point, but on the whole, I think his lyrics always sort of fall behind the production. And in terms of the controversy, unfortunately, sometimes the controversy overshadows the music.
Yeah,
and I think
especially lately, in the last few years, it's kind of the balance has been skewed, unfortunately. But
but still, I think he's probably going to go down. His music is going to allow him to go down in history.
Yeah, it will stand the test of time, or already has. When you think back to kind of the earlier stuff, right? So, what I wanted to do first, if that's okay, we've got Jack on the controls. I'm just going to kind of introduce new watchers or listeners to our ranking system. Is that okay to get the ranking system up first?
Yep.
So we can go through the tiers. Cool, perfect. Okay, so we're going to use a 6-tier system. This is our format at the moment. So just to kind of talk through the list. So at the top we've got mind blown GOAT tier. So this is a record that could be described as perfect or a classic, a definable classic. Tier 2 is fire tier. So this is a great record that's hits so much more than it misses. Minor things potentially that stop it from being a classic, but it's still legendary. And we've got pat on the back as our 3rd tier. So this is a good record. This is still really enjoyable, but it has some things with it that we might want to change. Tier 4 is scratch CD. So this doesn't mean that we've listened to it too many times. It simply just means that it's it's just something you can just chuck away. I mean, you're not going to hate it if it's on, but it doesn't do much. Tier 5, we've got participation ribbon. So this tier is kind of like, yeah, you made an album, so what? I'm ready to move on. It's not something you're going to want to listen to again, but it's not unlistenable. You can tolerate it. What you can't tolerate is our final tier, trash tier. So this is an album with little to no redeemable qualities, and I would consider like an unlistenable album. So yeah, that's our list, guys. So I think what we're going to do is going to each run through. So take it in turns, going through the discography from the first album to the last album each, and then we'll just go through and have a discussion. What we liked, what we didn't like, justify our rankings afterwards. So you guys good to go?
Good to go.
On that? Okay. So I guess I'll start then. So going from the beginning, let me get my notes up as a reminder. Cool. So okay, first album, College Dropout. I am going to put this in fire tier. Okay, to start us off. This is a hard one to pick, but yeah, fire tier for this. Album 2, Late Registration. This is mind blown. Top tier, easily. Album 3, Graduation. I'm going to put this in pat on the back tier. Album 4, 808 and Heartbreak. I'm going to put this in scratch CD. Album 5, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Easy GOAT tier album. Chuck that shit right at the top. Album 6, Watch the Throne. I believe I'm going to put in pat on the back tier as well. Album, is it 7? I can't even remember what number on. Album 7, Yeezus. I'm going to put in scratch CD. Got a couple more now. Album 8, Life of Pablo. I'm going to put this in pat on the back. Okay. Album 9 is Yay, I think. I'm going to put in participation ribbon. Album 10, Kids See Ghosts. I'm going to put in fire emoji as well. And then lastly, Jesus is King. This is another participation ribbon. One I had to and ah about for a while, but that's my list.
All right.
Like I said, we will get into this, but
let me go next. Looking at that, there are some similarities between us. So College Dropout, I've put as fire. Late Registration, I've put as mind blown. Mostly for nostalgia factor, really. Graduation, I've put as fire. 808s and Heartbreaks, I've put as pat on the back. My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy is on the fire tier. Are we not doing Watch the Throne?
Yeah, I put Watch the...
Oh, yeah, I see it there. Yeah, I didn't see it for a second there.
Gold ass motherfucker. Can't miss it.
Yeah, Watch the Throne, I've put as fire.
Are you trying to kill my ranking system?
There's a limit to how many can go in one tier.
Yeah, I'm going to totally kill your ranking system here. I did try to spread them out. Where are we at? Jesus. Jesus. I put his mind blown.
Interesting. Okay. Interesting.
I mean, at least you didn't put it as fire.
Life of Pablo, I put his pat on the back. Yee, I've put as trash. Just trash.
Oh.
Yeah, in the comments.
Wow.
I'm with you, bro. Oh wait, no. Comments.
No, that's Jesus. That's Jesus.
What the fuck?
That's a crazy ranking, man. Not yay, Jesus, but
yeah. Kids See Ghosts, I've got as pat on the back. And I'm sorry, Jack, but
you come with the fire.
Jesus and King is on fire. Yeah.
God damn.
What?
God damn.
What?
I felt the spirit. I felt the spirit.
This is crazy.
And this is you trying to spread them out, you said.
There's so many though, and to be honest, I think there is quality throughout. But yeah, we'll get into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jack, let's get yours.
So, where's the first? All right, college dropout is fire. Debatable for mind blown for college dropout.
I was the same. It's hard to pick.
But I agree. I think like late registration took all the good bits, put it further. Graduations, backpack for me as well. 808 is backpats. My dark twisted fantasy. I'm gonna put fire. Got Jesus. It'd have to be a scratch CD for the Yeez. Life of Pablo. Got a backpack. Yee. I'm gonna backpack, which is kind of fucking with the graphic now as well.
Practice what you preach. Specific choice of words there.
Jesus is King. I put scratch CD, but it's debatable. I wouldn't be mad about some arguments about that.
Debatable higher or lower?
I would debate possibly putting it higher.
Damn.
But yeah, we'll get into it.
I feel like I've done Kanye dirty looking at your list because you're stacking all that shit at the bottom. The top
Watch the Throne. I'm gonna put scratch CD. Kids See Ghosts. I'm gonna put fire.
That fire tier is burgeoning.
Interesting.
It is. We need a. I don't even know what we can do. If you start with someone else, I'll try and sort this shit out a bit.
Yeah, well, I'm just looking at the list so far. All of our rankings are kind of all over the place, really. Or a lot more divergent than I think anything we've done so far.
We have quite a few of similarities, but then the ones that are different are wildly different.
Yeah. Well, I'm just like, in terms of kind of just having a quick look. I'm just trying to see what's like the wildest divergence. I think Jesus, you put it at the I mean, obviously we'll save it because I want to get into it chronologically. But your ranking versus mine and Jack's is some crazy difference of opinion.
I'm as surprised as you guys are.
And then Jesus is King on fire. I mean, again, let's wait. But you're coming in with the firest takes today.
To be fair, I was going to make an argument similar to Jack that potentially this could go higher. Potentially, I would have put this in Mind Blown.
Okay, well let's get into it.
I think I want to change some of my ranking.
Okay,
I'm looking at it. I'm going to move Jesus down. No, I'm going to move 808s down 2 tiers.
Damn.
Oh, do I see? It's no. I'm gonna move 808s down 1, and I'm gonna move Watch the Throne down 1.
Okay. Okay. Let me have a look at my list just to before I lock in as well.
Because I'm thinking about it, and like, there were albums here that I haven't been back to until this, and I think there's a good reason for that. And I feel like there's a trap you can fall into with Kanye. Because we were saying, like, because he's such a good producer, all of these albums have banging beats, and like we were talking about a couple of weeks ago, beats can carry songs, and 100%. They do more so nowadays. So like even his bad albums, you can listen to them, but I feel like the quality of 808s is really up and down,
I completely agree. Like, I think for the early half of his career, a lot of the lyrical work boosted it or stood upon with the production. And later career, or his later career, for me, it was kind of like I was enjoying the stuff despite the rapping issues that I'd say he's kind of had since Yeezus onwards. Since then, he's kind of slipped. Anyway, should we? Fuck it. I'm gonna leave my tier. I'm gonna leave my list. I'm fine with it as it is. The one caveat I would say is that even though I've got some stuff like low, in general, I fuck with pretty much all of it and would listen to everything besides the albums I've got in participation ribbon. Those are the only ones that I don't think I'm not going back to, but everything else I re-listen. Dennis, are you locked in?
I would move 808s down one as well. I agree with Jack that it's inconsistent. It's all over the place.
See, I thought it was. I have such a different opinion because I thought it was a consistent album. It was just there was nothing that wowed me like the other albums, but I thought as a whole there weren't many bad tracks on it. Anyway, let's get into it chronologically. Everyone good to go? We locked in?
Yep.
Okay. So, College Dropout. So, what can I say about this? I listened to this album. This was an actual CD, one of the first CDs I bought, like back in the day. 2004. How old would we have been? Well, like 13, 12, 13? Yeah. I have so much nostalgia re-listening to this. Like I said, it been one of the first CDs I bought and really enjoyed and played so many times. I still love it, and it doesn't get old re-listening. Originally, I thought this was going to be an easy, mind-blown, top-tier album for me. But again, comparing it in the context against Late Registration and My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, I think categorically those albums are better for me. So I had to bump it down, but it's almost like a 0.5. It's hard to kind of get away from the nostalgia that you have for something. But it's fucking great. It's fucking great. So just taking a look, I think we all put that in fire tier, so we're all in unison.
I'm the same as you. I would have, if there was an album I was going to bump up to Mind Blown as well, it would be this one. I feel like the other ones there are very, very good, but this is like prime Kanye for me.
Yeah, it's just if I viewed it with a big bias, it would be at the top, but I had to kind of take it with a sense of objectivity, knowing what he can do, which he does. But it's like I said, besides potentially a few tracks, it's front to back. It's a great listen, and it was so important for the genre because at the time I think like mainstream hip hop was so like focused on like gangster rap. And just the kind of sound he brought to the mainstream with kind of like I said, the old school samples and actually talking about like some real shit. Like I said, on a mainstream level, at least, it was so different. So I think it's so important.
It's hard for me to get past the nostalgia on this one.
Yeah.
It was hard for me to objectively look at this album because I look at tracks like All Falls Down, Workout Plan, and Through the Wire. I look at that through just rose-tinted glasses.
Yeah.
And those tracks and those aren't, the rest of the album is just as good. I mean, those are sort of the singles that came out with the music videos. But, songs like Spaceship.
I love Spaceship.
Oh, dude.
I've been working the spaceship. So good.
Yeah.
Underrated, that track.
Yeah, but it's still good. So like you said, front to back, enjoyable. Yeah. But I don't know how much that is. I've just listened to this album so many times over the years.
Well, upon a re-listen, I mean, the one thing, like I said, with the two albums I did put in top tier, I either like or love every track. With this, upon a re-listen, there are a few tracks that I think maybe would be skippable for me. So the ones that came to mind would be "Get 'Em High," "Breathe In, Breathe Out" with Ludacris, and "School Spirit." Those tracks, they're not necessarily bad, and he's got like a lot of worse tracks, but they fall a bit short compared to the rest of the album. So that's what kind of brought it down from being like perfect or
potentially hot take, but for me that's the new Workout Plan. I know people loved it,
as in like a bad track.
Yeah. That's the one where I always debate skipping when I'm listening to it.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, I enjoy the comedy aspect. It's not like it's not on the level of like an All Falls Down or whatever in terms of like again, objective quality, but it's with Dennis, it's a funny, amusing track, and I remember the video being hilarious.
Yeah, I like all those elements, but there's it being 5.5 minutes. I like if it was 4.5 minutes, and the same material, I'd probably like it a lot more. But yeah,
right. So just too long. I mean, I think it reminds me like another thing that I think adds to the album quality. And now I did my rankings based on the songs. I wasn't kind of counting the skits. Because when you look at an album like this, it seems so long. When you take away the skits, it's only like 13 to 15 tracks. But the skits on this album are fire and add to the enjoyment. This is another thing where I have so much nostalgia. This and Late Registration, to be honest. You guys in the same boat?
Yeah.
Just with the kind of the Bernie Mac, just hilarity throughout. So
legend. Is it Bernie Mac on the next one as well? Because I always thought it was Cedric the Entertainer. Because it sounds a lot like Cedric the Entertainer.
I don't know. I always thought Bernie Mac. Maybe I'm wrong.
I'm opening the Wikipedia pages when I go through, so I can
double
find out while we look. Yeah,
I think you're right. It probably is Bernie Mac. Rest in peace. Guy was a legend.
You ain't gonna slide across this stage, Kanye.
Yeah, good. I would say the skits on the next on late registration are a little bit funnier because they've got like a constant theme.
Broke five broke.
We ain't got it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do appreciate some good skits on a rap album.
Yeah, it's skits where you don't want to skip to get to the next song. They add to the enjoyment, which I think is rare.
That's what I was gonna say. They add to the track almost always. They're almost like song introductions. It's got a very kind of live aspect to it, in the sense that like if it was a gig and you were about to do Spaceship, you could see the "I'll Fly Away" thing being played as an introduction to it, or like the workout plan, you could do that as like a skit for the audience and then kick into the song. Yeah,
completely agree. Right, so I mean, I don't know if I know we've done this before with other videos. I have tried to pick like 3 of my top tracks. I don't know, have you guys done the same? I was going to say before we move on or
I haven't,
do anything
but I
else.
feel like I could do that pretty quickly.
You could do that, okay.
Same.
So yeah, I was going to say my favorite tracks on this album before we move on. All Falls Down, Spaceship, and Slow Jams. No, we haven't mentioned it. Slow Jams with Twister. Woo! Another classic.
Yeah.
What about you guys?
I would say probably Spaceship, Jesus Walks, and All Falls Down again, probably as well.
Nice.
I'm going to be a bit different. Yeah, All Falls Down, and Slow Jams, and Through the Wire. I think Through the Wire is pretty sick.
Nice. Yeah, I mean we're all sharing 2, right? All Falls Down and is it Spaceship? Oh no, sorry, I'm sharing Slow Jams with you. Anyway, yeah. A few similarities on one different track each. So yeah. I
think you guys did share Spaceship, so yeah.
Yeah. For me, easily Jesus Walks could be up there as well. Through the Wire, it's just so many good tracks.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other thoughts on this before we move on to album 2?
I know he'd done EPs before, but coming out on your debut album, I know he's got a shit ton of features, so he'd obviously got the clout and stuff already. But coming out on your debut album, was
a seasoned producer for Jay-Z.
Yeah, with coming out with a 13-minute track on a hip hop album, telling your story up to that point, fucking genius.
Yeah, Last Call. I completely forgot. I love that. Yeah, it's such a good story, almost like a biography, right?
Yeah.
Of his life up to that point. It's
and not many other hip hop artists could come out with a 12-minute track that you like can listen to all the way through without being bored. Can listen to like the music, which is just testament to his production from the off. Really.
Yeah. It kind of foreshadows kind of I would say kind of stuff he did later, almost like kind of stuff on Dark Fantasy with tracks that kind of seek through different kind of musical journeys. It's being the long form track with lots of different elements that kind of chops and changes. That kind of foreshadowed that kind of production for me. But yeah, it's a touching story that, again, like I said, I think there's some importance to this album with him just like telling you about the kind of struggles, the ups and downs, and kind of like the emotional aspect of him, which I think, like I said, a lot of other music at the time didn't have, or a lot of other hip hop music didn't have. It was all kind of like the persona of just being hard as fuck. Again, I'm thinking like just gangster rap, which dominated at the time, and this was so different. And now these days, every motherfucker in rap's emotional. So I kind of feel like, I think of like some artists like Kanye, Andre 3000, those are the guys that kind of paved the way for kind of, just talking about how you really feel. It seems redundant now, but I think it is important and like a game changer in terms of lyrical content.
I mean, what was out around this time? Was it like was 50 Cent and
50 was dominating at this time. I mean, Get Rich came out in 2003, I believe.
Okay, yeah.
American
50...
Idiot. It's out this year.
Classic album. Master P and
I mean, this was fucking Mad Villainy.
Villainy
came out, same year as College Dropout.
What's Mad Villainy? I don't think I'm familiar with that album.
It's Doom and Madlib.
Right.
Collab.
It's banging.
You can have a lot of hip hop purists that will want to kill you for
really?
not being familiar.
Especially now, man. I agree.
Yeah, rest in peace, Doom. Definitely. Okay, let's move on to Late Registration. So, again,
just on the emotional edge.
Okay.
James Blunt came out in that year as well, Back to Bedlam. So I feel like that's as pivotal,
Yeah. This was fire, but James Blunt's debut was GOAT tier, obviously, and James Blunt tier list coming in February. Right, Late Registration, before we get too sidetracked. So, interesting, this is the one album that we all put at the top tier. So we all think this is perfect or near perfect for an album. So, for me to summarize, I would say this definitely feels like a sequel or an evolution on what Kanye did on College Dropout, and potentially like the last record where you kind of feel like you're purely getting like his raw, like almost like human emotion before he kind of changed and became like a cultural icon that's kind of bigger than him as the person. It's hard to describe. I kind of feel like this is the last album that still has the sense of like innocence and like vulnerability. I mean, it's always still there, but it's kind of, again, in terms of what we're talking about with the controversies and everything, that started to overshadow past this record. But I mean, for me, in terms of putting this at the top, it's the production feels more varied and richer compared to College Dropout in terms of kind of incorporating loads of orchestral elements, like string. There's loads of string arrangements, brass, keyboards. It's not just based in soul sample production, which I like. I love the soul sample stuff, but it kind of evolves and adds that other stuff, which I think is great. So I upon the re-listen for this list, I had my favorites, but there was not a track I didn't enjoy. I loved liked or loved every track. Again, even the skits. So, Late Registration. You all loved it as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely loved it as well. In fact, all this era of Kanye, where he does this sort of school trilogy thing. I love all of that. Because I think after 808s, it goes in a completely different direction. Fewer samples, more sort of layered beats with synthesizers on top, etc. Synthesizers and 808s, 808 drum beats on top as well.
Right. So the kind of more natural production style,
the more sort of traditional hip hop sampling style of Kanye. That sort of like 90s influence before he completely changed the game in general, because I think 808s was like a bit of a wake up for the rap industry in general. Beats can go in a different direction.
A huge left turn from that one.
But loved it. But again, I should sort of stress that the nostalgia factor should be included in my rating.
But it lives up to it. It lives up to it. I think, again, like I said, while I was being objective and saw some flaws in College Dropout, on this one I really couldn't. I had the sense of nostalgia, but it's just like I said, the rapping's great, the production's great, the all the features deliver as well. It's got such a great feature list. I'm thinking in terms of who's featuring Adam Levine, Lupe, Common, Brandy, Jay-Z, Nas, Cameron. Like no one fucks up on here for me.
You know what's funny though? Before we go to Jack's opinion, what's funny though is my brother. So I've got a 17-year-old brother, and he loves Kanye as well. And so I spoke to him about it, and what's his favorite albums? His favorite albums are all the post 808 stuff. So his favorite albums are like Yeezus, Life of Pablo, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. So I wonder, like,
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, because he was born in 2003, right? So if you were born post 2000, like around that time, you'd be like 12, 13, getting a music taste around the time of My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, Yeezus, Life of Pablo. So I wonder what they think of these classic albums. Do they rate them as much? Because these these first albums take so much inspiration from like 90s hip hop, which I know like we listened to a lot of 90s hip hop, and I'm not sure if you were born in like the 2000s, 2010s, you go back that far.
Yeah, it's weird, I guess, because he's had like a career that spanned so long technically, but he's still like an artist that kind of like appeals to kind of like an older generation, middle generation like us, I guess, and then like younger, like, there's not that many artists that I would say would be appreciated by such like a broad range of people, at least in hip hop. So it is kind of like these eras are kind of like they're gonna be people's favorites. And obviously for us, kind of growing up at the time with the first albums, that we are gonna have that kind of lasting impression baked in us from like you said, nostalgia. So it is interesting because people like your brother, their first experience is going to be 808s, right, or whatever it is. So that's going to be like, oh, that's the first album, that's the one where you got into it, and it's almost like you're revisiting the older ones that don't have the context, or at least the context of how it was in the time and what it did.
I think a lot of now as well, when music is sampled now, it's usually like more hidden, whereas especially in the 90s, but even in the early noughties, it was made a feature. So it's like it wasn't put behind so much stuff, or it wasn't produced with so many effects to hide the original sample. It was just like you'd have that cut and looped, and then you'd build something around it. So I think it's not necessarily about the actual like release, but it's just the style of it. It's not something that it's like getting into a different subgenre of hip hop. Whether it's being like,
would it be like us listening to like 80s hip hop, like Grandmaster Flash and the Sugar Hill Gang and stuff? Because that was like a completely different kind of hip, because they were sampling from like R&B, a lot more from that before like the whole boom bap era like got going. So would it be like that?
I think another it's a really interesting point you made on the sampling thing in terms of Jack, in terms of kind of in this kind of version of sampling where the sample is the main feature and it's chopped, but you still hear the sample, and now it's kind of the sample will just be like a background thing. You might not even know what the sample is. I think potentially part of the reason might be that the kind of things have got a lot more stricter in terms of kind of sample use, more modern. So it's almost like it's harder to kind of get like clearance for samples these days. So kind of artists shy away from it, or if they do use it, they're obscured to, I guess, kind of avoid legal issues. I don't know. That would be my kind of vibe. So it's almost like as it's harder to obtain sample clearances, people are going away from using that as the core base for like hip hop production.
I think it's partly that, and like we were saying with the money topic that we had a couple of weeks ago, the record labels are probably just looking for any revenue source they can get. In the last like 5 years, it must have gone up hugely to license a top artist's music for a sample or anything, even if it's like historical, because the Otis Redding's family keep going after people for using Otis samples. And someone else as well. I can't remember
Marvin
who, but
Gaye.
Marvin Gaye. Yeah. Like, it's
a shame, man. It's a damn shame, because it is interesting, right? That kind of the legal or business aspect is kind of changing the sound of the music, even when it just comes down to the production. So it's interesting. It's sad in a way, but like it's interesting that has such a big effect when you consider it.
It's also hard to get it's hard to get a sample looping right and sounding good with other elements if you're just off your face on codeine. I think it's easier to just get some spacey synth packs from native instruments and hit some keys randomly, you know.
Yeah. Well, just to bring it back to the album. I mean, Jack, any specifics on why you also consider this to be, well, you consider this to be the definitive best Kanye album?
I think it's got all of the good elements from fucking College Dropout.
Yeah.
But I think it, like you said, it builds on them. I actually prefer the skits on College Dropout, but that's like probably my only gripe with this. It's such a real album. It's such a like this is how I can stomach some of the stuff that's happened outside of the music with Kanye and some of the stuff that's happened on later albums, because I'm like, I know there's a real person in there, because if you're not a real human being in touch with your feelings and able to access it in an artistic way, you can't make an album like this. Because tracks like Hey Mama, Roses, Bring 'Em Down, like Bring Me Down, all that, like that's just real artistry.
Yeah. Yeah, he's wearing his emotions on the sleeve. He's talking about things that are like so like sensitive and like most people just wouldn't want to kind of go into, you know, real personal shit. Yeah. So yeah,
and he's put it to a banger soundtrack.
Yeah, exactly. It's that perfect blend. Okay, shall we do top tracks for this?
Before we move on,
sorry.
On the skit side, a bit of a surprise and a hot take. It wasn't Bernie Mac or Cedric the Entertainer that did the skits.
Shit.
It was a comedian called D. Ray Davis. If you saw him, if you Googled him, you will have seen him. I've seen him on loads. Apparently, he was actually in the Outkast video for Roses. So yeah, look out for him in that. But yeah, he was actually doing an impression of Bernie Mac on those tracks.
Fair. That's something I've never known. Interesting.
Learn something new every day.
Okay, so
when are we doing the Outcast tier list? By the way, now that we've sidled into it, we need to do that. Shit.
I'm game for doing that next if you wanted. It's not a huge discography, at least a bit smaller than this, so it should be easy for us to crack out.
Yeah,
it'd be easier to fit on the fucking on the list.
Yeah. Anyone in the comments, let us know what if there's a specific artist or band that you want us to tier list. We'll look into it. But yeah, I think we'll be keen on that one. Right. Any other thoughts on Late Reg before we just do top tracks?
No.
Cool. Okay. So my top tracks, I mean, this was very hard for me to pick just because, like I said, I didn't dislike a single track. So there were so many that could have put in. Definitive two, I think, for me would be Roses. Again, the subject matter, as Jack mentioned, in terms of kind of his aunt passing was so great. I love that. And my other definitive top track for this album is Gone. I fucking love Gone. This might potentially be a contender for best Kanye track in general, just with the three verses and going from the kind of happy, bouncy feeling into the kind of minor kind of thing with the strings, just so good. And then my third place, it was hard because so many could get in there. I'm probably going to put Touch the Sky in there again for a nostalgia factor. I love Lupe, so it's great to have this track as the intro to Lupe Fiasco as well, because he's such a great artist too. But yeah, so Touch the Sky, Roses, and Gone would be my top three. Dennis?
So my top three, I'd have Roses in there for sure. Gone, such a great tune, and yeah, I love how Kanye always makes a sample work with a beat. He I think it comes up again in another track on an album that's not so good. What was it? Like for example, as Famous off of Life of Pablo. Where he samples the Bam Bam, and it goes bam. it goes just perfectly with the beat. He just knows how to fit that in there. But yeah, so to be a little bit different, just to spread out the tracks. I heard him say, great classic. It was a single as well, and
Really
Addiction. It's slightly different, slightly a bit upbeat, and it's deep. It's not surface level like his later albums lyrical content is.
Completely agree. Again, I love the production. The little guitar, the little plinkly guitar on Addiction. The beat on that's so good.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at any of those picks. Jack?
Touch the Sky was just Blaze beat.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think I did read that, but I forgot. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I think it's a Curtis Mayfield sample, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna try and avoid using the same ones as you, but Drive Slow is on there
with Paul.
Love that beat.
Yeah,
one of the best beats.
Yeah, and like just the conversational rapping in it is so good, and like it's so 90s. When we were talking about the disappointment of the AJ Chips and Skepta album, where like it didn't quite work and mesh, have them with the artists kind of working together. This is like kind of the opposite of that. It's not as intense where they're not going like line to line to each other, but it works as a whole continuous thing, and it works with them passing off to each other.
Yeah. I think it fits as well. The beat's just so smooth, and like it's almost like a walking pace, like you're walking and talking. Yeah, I get you.
I'm gonna say Bring Me Down, because I love the way the vocals are layered, and the harmonies between the Brandy singing with herself.
Yeah,
I love it, and it's something that he developed later on to have that bigger kind of vocal sound, especially on Jesus Is King.
Yeah. That the production on her vocals when she just comes in pretty much just at the beginning with it's just so hype, and it's so interesting to just have everything drop out and she just comes in. It's a great like stylistic touch. Yeah.
And Gone is huge. Got my boy Cameron on it. It's fantastic. But I'm gonna go with Gold Digger.
I was going to ask what's your thoughts on this actually, but like both of you, because this is a track where I like it, but it's almost like wore its welcome.
It's played to death.
Yeah, I fully don't think that's the fault of the track though.
Yeah,
like,
it's not.
It's good.
It was
it's good.
So overplayed. It's so hard to avoid getting tired of it, but it's a banging track.
It is just a banger. Yeah.
No, I'm not mad at that. The one other one I was going to ask, interesting, because this was potentially my fourth place, but I just wanted to see quickly what were your thoughts, whether you liked it, hated it. Was Diamonds, the remix with Jay-Z? Because for me, that has one of the most classic, the Jay-Z. I'm not a businessman. I'm a businessman. Just classic moment. Are you guys fans of that track?
When they extend the verse, and you just hear Kanye in the background. Oh yeah, we're not finished. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Having I don't know what it is. It's like a 24 line verse or something, some shit like that. But yeah, literally like, because I remember being fully sold by it. The first time I listened to it, I was in the zone of the cycle, that like pop song structure. I was ready for the chorus and it didn't come. That was I remember that being one of the moments when I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
This guy's got some game.
Cool. Right. Well, let's move on to album 3, Graduation, released in 2007. So again, just to look at the list, we're kind of all in the same-ish place. So for me and Jack, we've got it as back pat. So we like it, but don't necessarily love it. And Dennis has got it in fire tier. So he kind of thinks of it as a little better than us. So for me, this album, this took a left turn compared to the first two that I was not ready for back in the day. I thought this was a huge letdown in terms of the soul samples and the orchestral stuff was fucking gone, and it was just electronic, like poppy sound. This just rubbed me the wrong way. Now in retrospect, I've warmed to it. But I would never say it's like a go-to album. Like if I want to listen to Kanye and I only got a limited time, this isn't going to be considered. But it's a decent to good album. I mean, yeah. I mean, so you guys, what do you think?
Well, I'm surprised you guys didn't put this as high as you did, because what I thought this was like sort of the end of an era for Kanye before he changed the way that he gets his beats, etc. I thought lyrically there are some great lyrics, great songs with some great lyrics on here. For example, "Homecoming." "Homecoming" is a song that I think has a lot of heart. And
I don't like that song. Nothing really bad against the lyrics, but just the sound of it is just, it's actually one of my least favorites.
With the guitars and
yeah, it just feel awkward.
The guitars, the piano. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's just that I don't know. Just the timing. It's a bit like stuttery, and yeah, and even on the lyric front, I would say in general, one of the things is I feel like the lyrics were kind of dumbed down on this album compared to the previous two.
Yeah,
and then came back together with "You Dark Twisted Fantasy." Obviously, 808 is its own thing because he's not really rapping, but I felt like the lyrics and the sound both kind of, well, the sound changed and the lyrics were dumbed down in general.
I think that goes with what you were saying in that this is sort of his most poppy album, because yeah, if you look through the track list, a lot of these songs were sort of big pop hits.
Yeah,
like "Good Life," big pop hit. "Flashing Lights," big pop hit.
Yeah. It kind of feels like it was definitely like a commercial attempt, and that's not. I'm not necessarily mad at that, but it just, I wish it was mixed in with kind of previous sounds.
You know, I take it back. I wouldn't say this is fire. I mean, I think this sort of harkens back to what Jack was saying, in that a lot of the beats carry this. A lot of the beats carry this album through. So I would probably move this down to, to unlock my list. I'd probably move this down to Backpack as well.
Okay. We talked him down. Can we get a little mover on
you couldn't have done this before I crammed 5
to be
albums.
honest with you, before I was quite solid that this was probably one of my favorite from the 3
the original trilogy
or school. Yeah, the original trilogy.
Episodes 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah, as opposed from 4, 5, and 6. Yeah, now you've talked me down, and I think something like "Can't Tell Me Nothing," great beat, but the lyrics are just plain embarrassing. And this is sort of like harkens to like the lyrical content of some of the later albums.
Well, this is another thing. So it's kind of like when I said with Late Registration felt like the last album with a sense of like innocence and kind of full like vulnerability. This is the album where we get like the modern Kanye in terms of kind of the like, you know, seen as like the egotistical, person who like, you know, only gives a shit about himself. This is the start of it almost, which again, you know, it sounds like I'm really bad mouthing that album. I'm not, because there are definite bangers. Like the tracks that I like, I fucking love. But as a whole album, it doesn't earn its place. But on what you just said, "Can't Tell Me Nothing," that track is so hype. La 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 la. Wait till I get my money right. Come on. Every time that intro starts,
it goes hard.
I'm not skipping that track. At any moment in time.
To be honest, neither am I. I'm not skipping that track. It goes hard. It hits hard. The hook, the chorus, sick. Lyrics are embarrassing. Yeah. I've actually got a top 5 list of Kanye's most embarrassing lyrics.
What, a list you've made?
A list I've made. Can
we get that?
Sure. So at number 5, I've got "Today I Thought About Killing You." Off of Ye.
Yeah.
It goes, "I called up my loved ones. I called up my cousins. I called up the Muslims. Said I'm about to go dumb." Like, what are you talking about, Kanye? All right, next one.
Great.
"Father Stretch My Hands" Part 1.
Oh, I know it. I know what you're gonna say.
Well, now if I fuck this model and she just bleached her asshole,
it's horrible,
and I get bleached on my t-shirt, does that make me an asshole?
Yeah. 100% one of his worst bars, which is a shame because I like that song.
Yeah, it's the beat. Again, there's another thing. I think the beat carries that.
Yeah,
beat carries that.
But it's a horrible line. Okay, let's get the rest. Is this descending order?
It's in ascending order. So I'm on number three. Number three is Black Skinhead, off of Yeezus. And it goes, I keep it 300 like the Romans.
Like the Romans. Yeah.
Yeah, classic.
A little historical inaccuracy right there.
And Can't Tell Me Nothing comes in at number two. If the devil wears Prada, Adam Eve wears nada. I'm in between, just a little more fresher. Just come on. Like you wrote that and millions of people heard it. Like
it's not great. Bleached Arsehole is way worse, but
it's not the worst, yeah.
What's the number one then?
Number one is the entirety of Pinocchio's story.
What, 808s? See, Jackie's done this again. I was
going to say,
when we did best tracks of the year,
even with his own rules, he can't stick to the rules.
Dennis, you're horrendous, mate. You're absolutely horrendous.
You've also forgotten his feature on Katy Perry's E.T., where he's got the line, pockets on Shrek, rockets on deck, tell me what's next, alien sex.
Okay, there's only one lyric that I've quoted due to how bad it is. This is probably my least favorite one while we're talking about it. So this is off All Mine on Ye, when he goes, let me hit it raw like fuck the outcome. None of us would be here without come.
I mean,
makes sense.
At least he's learned science better than he learned history.
Yeah. That would be in contention with the Bleached Arsehole, but yeah, that's my nomination. Right. Let's get back to graduation. I think, Jack, have you got anything, any insight onto this before we do tracks?
I was the same as you when it came out. I thought it was a major letdown. I feel like it's this is one of the albums where the beats carry it. Like stuff like Stronger, Good Life, Can't Tell Me Nothing, Flashing Lights, they're good. I feel like they heavily carry stuff like like Homecoming. Big Brother's okay, but it's like lyrically a bit weird to listen to. It feels like you're reading one of his childhood letters when he idolized Jay-Z. It's like it's kind of a bit weird.
Yeah, there's an awkwardness to it.
Yeah. I just don't think it's as strong. It was definitely. Oh, like to me now, looking back at it, it seems like it's part of a progression that he wants to take, going through to his later work, which is fine. Which is why I've kind of come around to it a bit. But this is still, I think, not on par with the other backpats, even maybe.
Right, so it would be your lowest of that category.
It's a very 50-50 album for me.
Yeah.
This has probably got the most skips of the first ones.
I would agree. Just looking, because I've got it with Watch the Throne and Life of Pablo, and I put both of those records. I'd play both of those records over this on any given day. So yeah, I'm the same with you. It's a low backpat. Cool. Let's do our top tracks and then move on. I think we're all like I said, in unison on that one, which is cool. So my top tracks would be let me see what I've got written down. So I'll start. Definitely Can't Tell Me Nothing for starters, because we've already mentioned it. I fucking love that track. Again, more on the production side, but there's hype moments. Flashing Lights, love that track, and I think that's one of the better lyrical tracks. And again, the beat's classic. I that's probably my favorite track in the whole album. And then third, I'll probably put Champion. I think again, love the beat. And it's kind of, this is one of the tracks that kind of harkens to previous two album Kanye in terms of kind of sound and style. So it was nice to get a track like that on it. But yeah, Champion, Can't Tell Me Nothing, Flashing Lights.
Yeah, I would echo that in that. Yeah, Champion's probably best track on here. Can't Tell Me Nothing, just because it's just baller. And Homecoming, I quite enjoyed that.
Wow, interesting. Jack.
So Stronger, Good Life, Flashing Lights, pure commercial for it. Yeah, they're good tracks, and I love me some T-Pain as well. T-Pain fucking killed his feature on this.
Yeah, no, agreed. Cool. Okay, so let's go. Yeah, we'll go to album 4 now, which is 808s and Heartbreak. So this came out in 2008. So for me, kind of at this point, I was pissed. I was pissed as at the time. So I'm talking about at the time when I listened to this. I was like, man, this dude dropped like 2 classics, and then he did Graduation, which I was annoyed about, and then this, I was just like, where's the bars? What are these beats?
This actually made me sort of give up on Kanye a little bit, and I delayed listening to My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy for a long time just because of the PTSD from 808s.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Again, in hindsight, for me, I have warmed to it. It's not going to be one of my favorites. I mean, I was just going to say I missed out, but on our list, we've all got it in scratch CD, right? So it's kind of on the lower end of things. It's just a mixed bag. Again, like Graduation, there are tracks that I like, but I'm not really going to revisit that common. I mean, again, one thing I mentioned at the beginning is I feel like it's actually quite a consistent album in terms of like quality. Like I said, nothing like wows me like tracks that I would hear on the first 2 albums, but there isn't necessarily anything that I really hated either. It's just I think one thing I would say that as a positive, I think from like an engineering standpoint in terms of how it sounds, the mixing and the production and the kind of the aesthetic with the kind of the 808s and the really sparse synths, I actually think it's really good and potentially one of his best from like a production aspect. So that's one thing I like. I'm not even mad at the fact now that it's kind of just a whole auto-tune album. I do think he's used auto-tune in better ways later on in his career. So thinking about tracks like Runaway or Blood on the Leaves, I think those are better examples of Kanye using auto-tune. But, it's interesting. And very, again, in the context, it's very influential, which I think you got to give it props for better or worse.
Yeah, one thing I liked about this album is just how different it is in terms of composition. I mean, if you look at a song like Streetlights, it's just so unconventional, especially like even for like a hip hop song. It's just it's so such an unconventional song. And I like to it seemed as though he's sort of experimenting quite a lot with song structure. For example, if you look at like say Love Lockdown, where like every line rhymes, which it's got to have been difficult to sit down and put that together. So yeah, that's a top tier.
Just the raw sound of the kind of sub bass is
the 808
so good.
Yeah, the 808 kick.
The kick.
That's definitely going on a Kanye playlist. But yeah, there are some really good songs on here in terms of like unconventional song structure, interesting in the way that he does it, and interesting effects. For example, on Amazing, I really like the effect that he does on his voice. I think it's like a fuzz or something that he puts onto his voice. But and it goes all the way through. Yeah, quite like that. But
it's a very like robotic.
Yeah.
But kind of almost like a distortion. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this is sort of a launching pad onto the Kanye of the future, onto My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Really, you can see where certain elements are starting, but I think ultimately the album falls flat for me.
Yeah. Jack, you also consider this to be a CD of the scratch variety?
I think this is the true Graduation. Well, like this is what I felt like Graduation was at the time is actually this. This is what it actually is. Like for me, Love Lockdown's a banger. Streetlights is good. Almost every other song has like moments that I like and moments that I hate. And it's like that's for me it's looking at the rest of his body of work up till now is like he's got two incredibly consistent, sick albums, a slight deviant from that, and then this where it's like really off the rails kind of in terms of what I expect for quality. It was just a big letdown at the time, and I've not. It's definitely part of my personal taste as well, because that like true electronica, synthy kind of stuff I'm not into. But from a sound capture and mixing point of view, it's still produced very well. I think he had something like 20 members of staff working with him doing production, sound capture, mixing, mastering, all that sort of stuff. And it shows like it was obviously a lot of work to move between those styles. And I think that technically he's done it well, but in terms of artistry, I think it fell flat.
No, completely agree. Like I said, yeah, the technical aspect of the sound, like just listening to it like really loud with headphones, it's really enjoyable from that aspect of kind of, how the kind of, like I say, yeah, the 808s kind of envelop you. But yeah, no, I'm with you in terms of kind of the listening to it as a for enjoyment, that it has the flaws. Right. So yeah, I mean, any other thoughts, or should we just go through tracks? I think, like I said, we're all kind of on the same page. Yeah. All right.
Let's get some tracks.
So top 3 tracks for me. Probably my favorite track is "Say You Will," the opening track. I think that's such a great opener. And again, this kind of harkens to what you were saying, Dennis, experimenting with song structure. This is a very kind of slow building track. It's 6 minutes long, 6.5 minutes, and it kind of just sets this really eerie, dark mood that kind of shows off what the album's going to be. I love that track. Second favorite would be "Heartless." Obviously one of the singles. It's just a banger. And then probably my third favorite would be "Love Lockdown," again for the reasons we've already mentioned. So 2 of the singles, but the opener as well. Dennis, what about you?
Yeah, I agree that "Say You Will" is a great album opener. It's sort of to say, this is, prepare for this, prepare for more of this.
Get your box of tissues.
Yeah. Not sure in what context you mean, but yeah, sure.
Yeah. I regretted the sentence as soon as I spoke.
Yeah, as long as you got no Vaseline, I don't know, depending how you take it. So I would probably say, "Love Lockdown" is a banger. Put that in there. "Heartless," I loved "Heartless" as well. Another banger. And I quite liked "Amazing." I liked how slow it was. I'm not such a Young Jeezy fan, but I like the occasional Young Jeezy song.
I wasn't too hot on that track, interestingly, but fair enough.
I liked the hook. It had a good hook. It's a fun song.
Jack?
I think "Heartless," "Streetlights," "Love Lockdown." I think it's a bit of a cop-out top 3, but there's probably one of the...
Why a cop-out? What, just because they were singles?
Yeah. But I mean, like I feel like there's a reason they were chosen as the singles.
Right.
You're not going to see like "Coldest Winter" charting, I don't think.
Yeah. I like the track "Wayne" as well, actually, coming back. "See You in My Nightmares." That might be my an honourable mention. Dwayne. Wayne. Cool. Okay, let's move on. So album number 5, "My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy." So this was released in 2010. So again, just looking at our list, I've got it as GOAT tier album. You guys both have it in fire. I think this is a contentious opinion that you have for not considering this to be amongst his best, if not his best. But anyway, for me, look, I'll put it straight. For me, this album is a masterpiece, right? And one of like the albums of the previous decade. Never gets old. I've played it countless times. Probably Kanye's best lyrical album as well. So don't even get me started on the quality of the production and the depth, but on a lyrical level, he is spit in bars, right, which he hasn't really done for the previous 2 albums. again, like I said, the production's amazing. Again, long songs, kind of almost like progressive, like hip hop sound. It incorporates almost all the elements that he's used up until now, like a perfect mixture. So you've got the soul samples, you've got the orchestral stuff, you've got you've even got the kind of 808s, almost synthy electronic sound. It's all bundled in one, and it's just fucking epic. Okay, I fucking love this album, man. Why is this not top tier? And I know you guys really like it. I know you guys really like it from the Yankees, but why does this not reach the higher upper echelon?
Gotta be honest, I'm most familiar with this album. I've listened to this album to death. I didn't want to put it as GOAT, because again,
had to make room for Jesus.
Had to make room for Jesus is King.
Jesus being better than this. Come on, bruh. Jack, I almost forgot. I almost forgot that he had that opinion.
Yeah. I've got it up on my screen just as never forget.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see why you guys really didn't like Jesus, but okay.
Look, Dennis, you've listened to it to death, which means that there must be some immense enjoyment that you got from it.
Yeah.
What lets it down? Obviously, let me know what you like as well. But
again, I was afraid of putting it on GOAT just for nostalgia's sake. I didn't want to put it up. I think Late Registration needs to be up there because it totally deserves that. But with this, I didn't know whether I was just putting it up there because of familiarity. Because like if I go through the song, some of the songs I don't even know the names, but I listen to them. And I'm like, oh yeah, because I've listened to it just so many times, being in my pocket or something, and so I've taken it that way. Yeah, and I don't know what the song name is. But yeah, so I think that mind blown category should be reserved for sort of like classic albums that you'll come back to at any time. And I think this is probably up there, but I didn't want to put it up there for the wrong reasons. That's why.
This album, this has an effect where I think you could play pretty much every track, and I would get hype from the first couple of seconds, just hearing the beat, just thinking Power, All of the Lights, Monster, So Appalled, Hell of a Life. Just as soon as I hear the first few, the first bar of sound,
living that devil in a new dress life.
Yeah, I'm just ready for it. Jack, what's your thoughts on the album?
I think it's a bit of it's a bit of a delve into his kind of psyche at the time. And I think that's not... It's a double-edged sword. It gives the album its best moments, but it also costs it something. It's like, this is another example of him being a very real person and kind of putting everything into producing an album. But I think that his exploration of his new potential with all the different sounds that he was doing and working as a musician, not just as a composer rather than a producer, and like working with all these musicians, because he's got like, I don't know, like 30 musicians working with him on this album. He's got like another 20 people doing the engineering side of it with him as again. So like this is a huge collaborative work.
Yeah. Probably the biggest to date in the discography in terms of kind of him working with others. Yeah. Which is kind of more what he does now. These days, kind of everything seems to be collaborative. That's just interesting.
But yeah, for me, Monster was it like I've never been a big fan of Monster. I've never been a big fan of Lost in the World.
That Nicki Minaj verse, though.
That's what I was going to say.
Classic. Deservedly, I think.
It's all right. Yeah.
I will say I'm not too hot on Jay-Z's verse on that track.
No.
But Kanye and Nicki both kill it.
I feel like, I don't know. I don't hate the Nicki Minaj verse, but I feel like if I hadn't listened to rap or hip hop before, and you played me that verse, I wouldn't be like, God damn, I've got to check this genre out. You know what I mean? I know a lot of people do. I know a lot of people rate that as like a really top verse, but like, yeah, it just never hit me like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of stuff because like All of the Lights, I love. Power is possibly one of the greatest. Power is definitely one of the greatest hip hop songs of all time. One of the best videos as well. You can show there like the whole aesthetic of the track, the lyrics of it. Like, yeah, it's pretty much a perfect track. But I don't feel like every track on here could fit that category.
Yeah, I mean, I'm taking a look through the track list and trying to see if there's certain things like that I wouldn't necessarily like get as hype for if there was a difference in quality. Yeah, potentially with the last couple of tracks. I don't know. I was going to say Lost in the World. I do like that. Obviously, Who Will Survive in America? That's just like a sample. I think Gil Scott-Heron sample, so it's not really a proper track. It's almost like an interlude to end it. So if I kind of discount that and kind of look at the rest, I would still say yeah, fuck with every track. To slight varying degrees, but
I mean, like, yeah, don't get me wrong. I've argued pretty strongly there, but that's just to defend my position of putting it in rank 2 rather than rank 1.
Right.
It's still a step above Graduation. It's a step above everything below it.
Yeah. Okay. Let's unless we've got anything else that we want. One thing I did want to talk about again, like late registration. I mean, we've kind of touched it on already, but I think pretty much all of the features kill it. And obviously we talked about the Nicki Minaj verse, which is probably like the most like talked about bit. But the track, what's it so appalled with everyone with Jay-Z, Pusha T,
the Prince and RZA.
Just an insane track feature wise, and like 6-7 minutes long as well. Just give me more of that shit. But even other tracks like Raekwon, I love him on Gorgeous. There's loads of people on all of the right lights, right? Not all credited, but
to be fair, could you imagine a fucking Kanye Wu-Tang album? Just because we pulled out RZA and Raekwon just there.
What Kanye produced with Wu-Tang rapping, or RZA produced?
Kanye and RZA producing. That broken, gritty element that RZA has with the super clean stuff that Kanye has, I reckon they can make it fit. Features from Kanye, features from every Wu-Tang member.
I would definitely be down for that. Maybe not in this moment in time, but if this came out around that era, then definitely.
You one hot take I want to. I think it would slap now because I feel like Wu-Tang are more. They're grown now as well.
It would be getting listened to. That I would never deny. I'm just saying I don't know if it's the perfect moment in time for that collaboration to happen. And the other thing I would say potentially is I would rather hear just a Kanye produced one, just because technically I think RZA maybe is slightly overrated as a producer. Don't kill me. I like his beats. I just don't think he should be heralded.
You're glad
with the other super producers.
You're glad you're in a different country right now. Is all I can tell you, mate.
Okay. That's a debate for another time. Let's move on and do top tracks, Dennis. Unless you've got anything else.
No.
You wanted to say top tracks, yeah. Okay. So my top tracks again, very very difficult, very very difficult. I'm going to go with Power. I echo most of the things Jack said about Power. All of the Lights again, just so hype. Love the use of 100 fucking features just with the background vocals and love the instrumental. And my third one would be hard. I did put Monster in there just because I think it's a very iconic, memorable track. See, with the verses, and I love that. I love the Bon Iver vocals part as well.
Is it not Bon Iver? Is it Bon Iver?
It's Bon Iver, yeah. But that could be interchanged with others. Power and All of the Lights would be the main two for me. Dennis?
I would put Devil in a New Dress in there. Yeah, it's a great song. Hell of a Life in there as well, and Gorgeous, like you said, with that Raekwon Wu Tang sound in there.
One of
Devil,
Kanye's best verses on Gorgeous, I think.
Devil in a New Dress. I love that because it's that old Kanye. It's that
The soul sample, yeah. I don't think that was produced by him though.
Oh no,
no, it was Bink.
Who was it?
Bink works for Rockefeller.
Yeah, which is interesting because
or some of the Blueprint.
Because I agree. You hear that track and you think instantly, yeah, this makes sense. This is a Kanye old school sample, but it's not actually him doing the beat, which is really odd.
It's like that D. Ray Davis doing an impression.
Yeah, you're right. That beat is classic and a throwback. But yeah, interesting. Completely different picks for you between you and me, which I think was the first time where we haven't had any crossovers. Jack,
to be different.
I can tell.
RZA's one of the top 5 producers. He invented an entire new sound. But my top 3 tracks for the album be Power, All of the Lights, and I'm leaning towards Hell of a Life at the moment, but my third pick could go between a few, depending how I'm feeling at the time.
Hell of a Life is very, very good. Be an honourable mention for me.
I feel like it sums up the feel of the album quite well. It's a very of this work kind of thing.
Cool. Okay, so let's move on to album 6, I think, technically. Watch the Throne. So this is the first collaborative album, Kanye and kind of his mentor, friend, at the time at least, Jay-Z. So this came out in 2011, and again, just to look at the rankings. This is a big difference in terms of our rankings. So I've put it as Backpack. So it's kind of, for me, it's an enjoyable but kind of middle tier. Dennis, you got it slightly higher at Fire, and then Jack has got it in Participation Ribbon. So Jack has got it as his least favorite Kanye West album, which I think is fucking crazy, but we'll get into that. So to kind of give Jack a bit of credit, I would say personally, given the caliber of these two guys, Kanye and Jay-Z, at least at the time, for hip-hop artists, like two of the biggest, again, at that time and ever, it kind of does seem like a little bit of a letdown in terms of just considering the status of the collaboration. Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing where I can kind of see a bit of disappointment in terms of is the lyrical quality, but in terms of the production and hypeness with like the hooks and everything, that's what bumps it up for me. So I think it has a lot of similarities with My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy in terms of having varied production that's quite progressive and incorporating lots of elements, but it's definitely more like electronic focused, almost like EDM. There's a lot of like those tracks, which again is weird when you think about it with a collaboration with these guys to lean on that sound. But yeah, I think it succeeds due to the kind of like the energy that the album exudes. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but that would be the main thing that I would say is
that's why it flops for me. That's like you've got two absolute titans of hip hop together, on an album, and some of the tracks, don't get me wrong, absolutely slap. Like the 7 of the tracks off this album were released as singles. I was going to say the singles, obviously,
it's
meaning
big in every way.
No Church, Paris, and Otis, but like there's only 5 tracks on this album they didn't release as a single.
Right.
But yeah, like there are tracks on here that are sick, but I feel like most of it is kind of a mismatch in terms of who they've got on the track and what the track sounds like. It's obviously still sounds good, it's produced well, but that's just like you know, put that as a footnote on everything Kanye's ever done. It never hit what it could have hit with those two finally coming together, because you're like, if you followed them as artists, you know about their relationship, you know they've been kind of building towards this for the last 15 years or whatever it is, and then this is the album they release after all that time.
Well, that's the other thing. I got a note. I was like, imagine if they had made this in like early 2000s, if they had this collaboration kind of, around the late registration era, then it definitely would have been a better album. Yeah,
and I feel like it would have, because I know it was very commercially successful, but I feel like it wasn't anywhere near as successful in kind of hip hop circles
as it could have been.
And I feel like, because I feel like it definitely alienated the kind of Jay-Z fans, because this isn't like, he's from that sampling era of hip hop. That's his shit. That's like how he came up.
Yeah,
classic hip hop. He's that guy.
It's not his best effort lyrically as well, Jay-Z specifically, compared to his level prior.
To me, it's just like it's a bit of a flop on all areas. It doesn't mean that it's bad consistently, but
just a question. So obviously you've put it as your worst participation ribbon. So like I said, my definition of a participation ribbon is something where you can listen to it, but you're never really going to out of choice. So do you ever go back to this album out of choice?
I've not played this album in about 7 or 8 years.
Damn. Okay. Because I would still, again, it's not going to be the most frequent one for me, but I would still occasionally listen to it, or at least go back to tracks. And upon a re-listen, I was actually more positive than I thought I would be, despite the obvious flaws. Dennis, defend your hottest on this. So tell Jack why he's wrong.
I agree with quite a bit of what Jack is saying. I think songs. We're
going to talk him down again. I can feel it coming.
You're not going to talk me down.
Yeah, put it in trash tier, man.
I think songs like Otis and Niggas in Paris, so overshadowed this album, and I totally agree with Jack that this should have been a classic album. It just it got rolled over because those tracks were just shining beacons, and it completely overshadowed everything else that was on here. At the same time, I think I haven't come back to this too much, because I come back to this album to listen to the singles, basically.
But that's the thing. There's for me, there's a lot of good deep cuts. That's the thing. I appreciate those singles dominated, and it became like a singles focused album. But a lot of the tracks that potentially aren't as popular or singles, I really like. So in terms of just looking at the track list, That's My Bitch, Who Gon Stop Me. Even, I don't know, is No Church in a Wild a single?
Who Gon Stop Me?
That was that was, because I was going to say again that track I would say would be better than Paris or Otis.
Oh yeah, 100%.
No Church was released over a year after the album, or over a year after the first single.
Wow. So is that before the album was dropped, though?
I think so. Same year. Yeah. So the first, to be fair, they're counting the first single as Ham, which came out in January of the year, and the album came out in August. I feel like it's pushing it a bit, because Otis didn't come out till July, so I feel like maybe they did Ham, and then they were it was a testing the waters kind of thing.
Yeah. I didn't, out of curiosity, I didn't, because I know Ham and the few tracks there are technically deluxe tracks, so I was considering just the standard album for my ranking. But
I actually prefer the deluxe version.
Yeah, I was gonna say Ham. Obviously, I still say Ham to this day. That track is that potentially is the best track, I would say.
I would say Ham and Primetime. Well, to be fair, Ham, Primetime, and The Joy, I would say, are probably worth putting on. An Illest Motherfucker Alive is better than some tracks on the album.
Yeah, kind of has the effect of the Gorillaz.
Yeah, it felt like
we did.
It's a really weird choice to put some of the songs on that they put on.
Yeah.
Just to finish off, this is one of the albums that I actually sat down with the Genius app and actually looked through the lyrics. I didn't do it for all the albums on here, But yeah, this is one of the albums that I did, and yeah, I think like Jack was saying, this was looked over by the hip hop aficionados. I think that's a mistake because you get like solid Kanye bars on here, you get solid Jay-Z bars. I have to admit, I'm not the biggest Jay-Z fan. His rapping style isn't sort of my thing. I mean, I do like some of his collabs that he's done. Collision Course is obviously legendary.
But have you listened to the Black Album though?
No, I was gonna say, you heard it. Dennis hates MF Doom and Jay-Z.
I probably should.
That's our TMZ.
I'll go back to it. But yeah, I don't rate Jay-Z as highly as other people.
Yeah, I'm the same as you. I don't consider him to be like the GOAT, which I know a lot of people do. But specifically, Black Album from a lyrical aspect, I think is the best to revisit.
I'll have to sit
so
down
hard on that album.
On this album, you get two, like you say, hip hop giants dropping bars, and it should be bigger than it is, because I feel as though this doesn't go on lists of sort of top hip hop albums.
Yeah,
it is great.
To me,
it could have been better.
It sounds to me this is like the kids got left alone in homework club and they found like some naughty juice and they didn't quite come out with what they should have come out with. They come out with like some sloppy mess where they coloured outside the lines. And they're like, it's got colours on it, it's got tracks, it's got lyrics, but they didn't try.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest drawback for me is the lyrical quality. I think all the other elements I enjoy and think were a success, but yeah, the lyrics are the biggest drag.
And a point I will make, you mentioned, Hattie, that I think it was Graduation that sort of started off as sort of Kanye talking about like how great he is, that ego side started to come out. This, I think, is like the flowering of it. This is like the apex.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I know obviously I guess it's the theme. You just look at the album cover, but yeah, that is a drawback. The kind of topics that it's a celebration of their like wealth and success for the most part, and I can't really get a lot out of that.
Yeah, it's not relatable.
I find it super weird as well because they're both talking about the same stuff, but it's like their lyrics, their lines still don't gel together, even though they're both following the same path.
Yeah,
it's really weird.
Yeah, it's not the perfect collaboration that it should have been. I think we can all agree on that. Let's do top tracks. So for me, I've got aforementioned No Church in the Wild, again another great opener. Man has some good openers. Just thinking about it, because obviously I referenced Say You Will and one or two others, I think. But yeah,
Dream kills that as well. Sorry, people always talk about Frank Ocean on that track, but Dream.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I'm always down for Frank. I love Frank Ocean, but I agreed. Both features are, extra features do well on that. Second favorite would be Otis. Again, obviously it's the single. It's one of the second biggest single, but it's classic. Love the sample. Great music video. It's just a cool stripped down track. And then my third favorite, which would be more of a deep cut, would be Why I Love You. I think that's what it's called. Just double checking.
The Mr. Hudson one.
Yes. But obviously this is a very like anthemic kind of EDM sounding track. But again, this just is just so hype, and it's kind of I think one of the better lyrical efforts as well. So it's a match of like great production and good rapping, which isn't sustained through the whole album. Okay, Dennis.
Top three for me. No Church. I think that's probably the best song on this album, to be honest. I come back to that regularly. Otis, just for that sample. Music videos, jokes as well.
Yeah.
And the next one is New Day, because I actually like how sort of chilled out New Day is compared to, like, say, Paris, where it's just so hyped. There's so many songs in here that are just so hyped. They have so much energy. But New Day, it's cool to just listen to Kanye.
Produced by RZA.
Is it?
I was just about to mention just before we wrap this up, the production or co-production list for this album is insane. So I'll put a note. So on this album, the production from Q-Tip, The Neptunes, Hit Boy, RZA, Swizz Beatz, No ID, insane production list. Just to mention.
Jesus.
But no,
yeah, that's it from me.
No, good selection, Jack. Just realize the difficulty when this is your least favorite album. Torturous.
Like,
take a trip down memory lane for 7 years ago. Come on, you got like No Church in the Wild, dude.
Yeah, no churches. I was trying to eliminate the ones that I actively dislike.
Okay.
Yeah, No Church is one of the best songs on it. Otis, I'm hard pushed to put in because I feel like the beat is sick, but nothing else matches it.
As in, you don't like the rapping. It's just the production that would bring you back to it. Okay.
Yeah, rapping is one of those where it just doesn't make any sense. I can't relate. I don't know what they're talking about, but that beat carries it.
I'm gonna say Paris and Who Gonna Stop Me. Mostly just for the one line of the "Who gonna stop me?" Huh?
Yeah, I think Paris is a bit overrated for me. Like I said, I like it, but I don't revere it as it has become the album showstopper track.
Having not heard it in 8 years or whatever it is, just hearing that beat again in my head after listening the one time through to do this, it's just the beat slaps, isn't it? It got overplayed 100%, but I feel like I more or less avoided that by never playing it myself.
Yeah, so you're living it for the first time almost, or kind of second time as opposed to 100th.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Decent selection all round. So let's move on to album. I don't even know what number we're on now. 7, 8. We're nearly there. We're nearly there, guys. We can ride this out. So the next album is Yeezus, which released in 2013. So yeah, I mean, another left turn. So this looking at our rankings, big difference, big contentious difference they have to get to. So me and Jack are on the same wavelength in terms of scratch CD.
Yeah, me and Hedy have the right opinion.
Yeah, so I think we probably both would be on the same wavelength in terms of there are tracks we like, but as an album it doesn't hold up. Dennis, the man, the crazy motherfucker here, put it as his arguable best Kanye album. So I mean, so this one I just want to say to start, it was quite interesting for me because there were a few albums that I came back to and I found myself more positive than I thought I would be. Again, I'm thinking. Like I said, Watch the Throne that we've just done, and even Graduation. But for me, this album at the time I really fucked with, and now it kind of went down upon re-listens, and I've lost a bit of goodwill towards it. So, I mean, I think this is the album that for me that has almost like the biggest disparity of quality between tracks that I like and tracks that I dislike. There are tracks on here that I fucking love. Black Skinhead, New Slaves, I'm In It, Blood on the Leaves. Those like 4 tracks I would consider amongst Kanye's best. But there's some trash surrounding it. Thoughts?
Dennis, you've muted yourself.
Yeah, I can't.
Although maybe that's for the best, given your approach to this album.
Yeah, Dennis, say what you're going to say. Why? Why is all I can ask.
I might be in the same boat as you. And so, like I said, I kind of gave up on Kanye after 808s. So, listening to this, I've only listened to this like a few times, and I might be at that phase where I'm just loving this album back to front.
You haven't worn it out yet.
There are very few tracks on this album that I don't enjoy. I guess my least favorite track on this album is "Hold My Liquor," and even that is is all right. I mean, compared to like "Blood on the Leaves," compared to like you said, Black Skinhead, New Slaves, "Hold My Liquor" I don't think holds up. But yeah, I just found that the beats on this album are absolutely fantastic. Like if you like a song like Black Skinhead, I bump that time and time again. The video is pretty jokes as well.
Yeah.
It's another one where the lyrics are kind of dumb, But
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. So just to chirp in because you brought it up, I think the sonic approach, I fucking love the kind of like raw, distorted, production. I think it's really good, pretty much throughout on most tracks. The lyrics are so bad on this album, so bad. Besides one or two tracks, he just shits the bed, and it really that the lyrics alone probably knock it down a tier for me.
He does, but I guess, like I said, I'm at that honeymoon phase because I'm sort of approaching this as like a first couple of listens. But I think the production and the beats carry this for me all the way through. I think this is some of the best beats that Kanye has done throughout his career. Lyrics, not so much.
Yeah. Jack, back me up. Give your opinion. Do you agree with us with the kind of disparity of quality with production versus lyrics? Are you
definitely? Yeah. I think this is probably his most, ironically, considering one of his other albums, but this is probably for me his most like bipolar influenced album. It's like there's elements of him being quite depressed and like really not liking himself, and then there's stuff like I'm a God, and then like
hate that track.
It doesn't gel as an album for me. My usual approach, reshuffle, cut tracks. Yeah, I would just make this probably like a 5-track EP. Yeah, if I got to do something like that with it.
Yeah, but that's the thing, because the list, it's so weird because it's like a really up and down listen for me, because like I said, on site I don't really like, then Black Skinhead goes hard, then I don't like I Am a God, and then I like New Slaves. It's literally almost like a black white thing in terms of tracks I like and tracks I don't. So I don't know whether it's better like that or bookended in terms of it being really good and going really bad. I agree with you, it could have been shortened, but
that's why for me it feels like it's on the level with 808s. Because like with 808s, I have the same thing, but it's more subtle. Like even in one track on 808, there'll be a section I like, a section I didn't like, stuff like that. So it's harder to listen to whole songs. But here it's like an entire song I like, an entire song I don't. Yeah. But it's the same effect. If you take enough steps back, it's the same effect.
Is it just the lyrics that are putting this so far down for you guys? Like if they released a pure instrumental album of this, would you put it higher?
For me, if his lyrics were better or not dog shit pretty much throughout, it would easily move to a backpack easily.
So it is for you. It is the lyrics to just let it down. What about for you, Jack? Is it more than just the lyrics? Because you say that there are tracks here that you actively hate.
So it's like for me, you can talk in broad terms with like lyrics and production. Yeah, there's like the two elements of hip hop, but then within that within production you've got like the engineering, sounds chosen, the orchestration of it, the composition of it, the mastering, like all these different elements. And then within lyrics as well, you've got like lyrical
flow, content,
like flow, rhyming, choice of rhythms, diversity of rhythms, lyrical content, delivery, voice, variety of voice, like all that sort of stuff. So I think that lyrics, the actual written words, are definitely weak in some areas for here, but it's also partly like the deliverance. It feels like he's really kind of let himself go, and he's not keeping himself to, because I feel like if we go all the way back to College Dropout and Late Registration, I feel like he made so much music at the time and was like, this isn't good enough, this is going to make the album.
I Beat Today for 3 summers.
Exactly. Yeah, like I feel like and you can hear it because every track has loads of different elements in it, but they've definitely come from different tracks and he's mixed them together. With this, I don't get that feeling at all. I get that like he locked himself in a room made a
it's
song.
rushed, or there wasn't much of an effort to kind of polish it. I mean, obviously it's unpolished. That's the aesthetic, but as in he could have done more to refine
I feel like
the tracks.
it could have, it could have gone through more evaluation and editing stages than it did. It could have had more like play it to someone else, get an opinion, go back, play it to someone else, get an opinion, go back. But I don't feel like he was in that place of his life. Do you know what I mean? I don't think like you're right, I am a god if you're going to go to No ID and be like, hey dude, how does this sound?
I do distinctly remember at this point in time he was like, I think he was like, he was in a bad place, and I remember he was mad because he felt like he was getting shut out by the fashion industry when he was like really going big into that. So you can tell obviously he's like an angry dude at this point. One interesting thing I was going to say based on what you said about the production, I think from what I have read, this album was potentially going to sound quite a lot different, but he actually got like Rick Rubin as like a co-producer who kind of like changed the sound or like altered it. So potentially it could have been like a different sounding album in terms of, I don't know.
Oh, okay. That's interesting
because stripped back.
He's obviously a prolific producer, but yeah, he's done a real mix of stuff.
He's done Paul's Boutique, he's done Metallica.
Yeah. I think specifically the album being kind of just like core elements and having like a rough sound. I think from what I've read that Rubin was like a big influence in that. And obviously that's harnessing Kanye's like anger or whatever, just at like his situation at the time. So it's interesting.
I feel like it's kind of it reminds me of something else we've spoken about, but I can't put my finger on it. I've been trying to think the whole time. It's something where like it's that side of it, the kind of rawness of it, sounds more like an homage to something than like the true representation of his kind of angst at the time or whatever it is.
Yeah, you're not feeling like it's really genuine, like a genuine representation versus kind of him being kind of like vulnerable or whatever on the first two albums, for instance, and that being a true reflection.
But I also think that's like given the music he's produced up to this point. He's like, that's obviously his style is not to get into really raw kind of harsh in your face horrible sounds. Like he's got the ability to learn to do that, definitely, but he's never shown it before this. So like it could be falling foul of that a bit as well.
One thing I will say though is I get the same effect from this as Hattie was saying he got from My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. That there are beats on here where the first bars come on and I just get hyped. So if I was to sit with this longer, I think it probably would go down just like it did for Hattie, but I wouldn't put it lower than Backpack. So I am surprised. I'm surprised that you guys put it down on Scratch CD.
You know, the one thing I will say that why I know this album's fucked up, right, is the one track where it does kind of have a throwback in terms of kind of sound. The last track, Bound 2, I fucking hate that track and consider it to potentially be the worst.
Yeah, same.
So that's when I know that he's fucked up. You know, I would have rather that track not been there, and it would stuck with the kind of aesthetic of like, you know, the kind of industrial, you know, just having that old school Kanye sound, but him like delivering some of the worst fucking lyrics ever. It's kind of like, it's just depressing. Anyway, should we do top tracks?
Go for it.
Okay, so top tracks for me, I mean, it's probably no surprise because I've already brought them up, but yeah, Black Skinhead and New Slaves, love both of them. And probably my favorite of all is Blood on the Leaves. Kind of like mirroring what you said, Dennis, that track always gets me hype when listening to it with the kind of like trap beat. And it's, like I said, it's one of the best uses of auto-tune, I think, from him. Yeah, fucking love that track.
I was going to pick exactly the same.
The same three?
Exactly the same three, to be honest. And I don't think I'd change my mind. Those three beats are absolutely sick. So yeah, I'd stick as the same as you. Blood on the Leaves, New Slaves, and Black
Skinhead. Yeah. Nice.
I think this is very telling. I feel much like I feel very like reaffirmed in mine and Hattie's opinions of this album now, because I'm going to pick the same three as well, which means that none of us pick a more standout track than those three. Like not even like as a group, but just individually, which is like the rest of the album isn't on par.
Yeah,
yeah, it shows that there's a divergence in quality.
Yeah.
While other albums are probably more consistent because we've all had different picks. Yeah, agreed. Okay, let's move on. So now we're in the last kind of couple albums. I'll try to run through these as quick as possible for the sake of time. But yeah, so we've got Life of Pablo, came out in 2016, so a few years after Yeezus. So interesting. Well, let's take a look at this. So we're all in the same place, all in Backpack. So we liked but didn't love it. I mean, this album to me is kind of, again, it's similar to Yeezus in terms of it has a huge depth of quality difference, I find, between tracks like Fucking Love and then tracks where, again, his lyrics are just killing it. But I do have a more fondness for this album that I go back to it a lot more than Yeezus, which is why I put it a tier above. But yeah, again, on the lyrical front, it's potentially just as bad in places. While he does have some crazy good bars, and the first thing that will come off the top of my head is the track with Kendrick, where he's actually like barring on the same level as Kendrick somehow. No More Parties in LA, I believe. But yeah, I have a soft spot for this album. I feel like it has a lot of rough edges, but I do re-listen to it a lot. So what are your guys' thoughts?
This is the one album where I really, really didn't like the lyrics on it. I thought the lyrics were just plain embarrassing. Really, in general, they're unrelatable, very egotistical, and I think it lets the production down quite a bit because
it's like a recurring theme now, isn't it? The production kind of being what carries it a lot.
Yeah, like on a track like Famous. On a track like Famous, I like I said before, I love how he managed to get that Bam Bam sample in it. The beats and the arrangements on so many of the tracks are just so good, but the lyrics just let it down so much.
Yeah. Jack? Oh, sorry.
Well, I was going to say, again, Father Stretch My Hands, like we already spoke about getting bleach on his t-shirt. Jesus.
Yeah. Who? This is when like he's at the point when no one can say, "Yo, yeah, you might want to rethink that verse." You're just gonna do it, and no one can tell him. It can't tell me nothing, right? It's coming to you.
Basically,
there's no quality control.
He's got his money, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing. There are, like I said, there are points where his lyrics are really good. Like I said, the No More Parties in LA, where you guys know I'm a huge Kendrick fan, but I think Kanye's rapping, he's on the same level. And on a given day, I would prefer either verse. Real Friends, which I think is another track where his lyrics are, it goes back to the old school Kanye in terms of him talking about like an emotional, personal, subject as opposed to the kind of facade of egotism. And Saint Pablo, the last track as well. Again, a handful of tracks with like really good lyrics. So it's weird. It's weird how he just kind of completely delivers a bomb of garbage, and then it has some moments of brilliance.
But for me, like the only reason this sits above Yeezus in the tier list is because there's generally a more cohesive like feeling throughout the album, which I think is...
That's an interesting take. Yeezus was...
Yeah, I know, it's
Yeezus
more
was
like...
consistent musically.
Yeah. But I feel like this is like... Again, it's almost... I don't want to keep going on about it rather than talk about the music, but I feel like his personal life is kind of becoming so intertwined with his music at this point that it's really difficult to separate the two. I feel like this is kind of like a come up after the low he was at for Yeezus, and it's like it feels like it's got direction. It's almost like too much for him to put into one album, which is where I think his lyric issues come from with it. But it feels driven, whereas some of Yeezus, it feels kind of like floundering. But yeah, I agree with Dennis on like there's not a point on this album where the lyrics meet the level of the production. However, his vocal production is still like top tier, and stuff like Ultralight Beam those
Love that
where
track.
he's using the vocal as an instrument, and he's using stuff like the auto tune as an effect rather than to cover up a flaw.
Yeah,
that sort of stuff is like, he really progresses on this album. But without that, this would be a scratch CD for me as well.
Just on my theme, because you brought it up, on my theme of banging first tracks, Ultralight Beam.
Insane. Probably, I would say the best on the album.
Yeah, if he's gonna do Christian rap, that's how you do it.
This was his warm up.
Yeah.
This was the sound check.
Yeah, like you said, the production, you know, the use of autotune, the choir, Chance, one of the last like good Chance outings where he absolutely kills it and has one of the best verses on the entire album. It's just perfect. I fucking love that track. Right. Any other thoughts, or should we just do top tracks?
Can we do top track?
Yeah. Top
singular.
Okay, well, we'll get to you. We can place our bets on what it's going to be. So for me, already mentioned it, Ultralight Beam. What a great opener. You know, pretty much love every element, and that would definitely go on a Kanye playlist. Real Friends, again, one of the, well, I've already talked about them. Real Friends and No More Parties, two tracks where I think he was the lyrics were good, and it was actually harking back to the old Kanye in terms of kind of, you get like a window into how he's really feeling without necessarily like the cultural figure or egotism that has clouded it. So yeah, those would be mine. Dennis?
Yeah, I would go with Famous. Really enjoyed that. Just for the beat, and again, yeah, it's kind of hard to pick like a top three on this. I'm with Jack. It should be Ultralight Beam, and yeah, that's it. But yeah, Famous, Ultralight Beam, and yeah, Parties. No More Parties in LA, just for that Kendrick collab.
Madlib beat as well.
Nice.
Ultralight Beam is by far the best track on the album. No More Parties is good. I feel like on a different album it doesn't shine as much, but definitely it's a light at the end of the tunnel when you get to track 17 on this album.
It definitely could have had some trim in. I mean, the last thing I would say is, if this, because this is what, 20 tracks. I know there's some skits. I think it's probably going to be 15 or 16 actual tracks. But I felt, for me, if this was trimmed to maybe like 10 tracks, 10 of the best tracks, this could maybe go up a tier easily into fire for me.
Like I love Kanye. I'm pretty sure you can drop that and it will not affect the album in the least.
Yeah, anyone that's putting that on their favorite list is smoking some premium crack. Right, let's get into the last three. These are all a lot shorter, so I guess we will squeeze this in good time. So Ye. So Ye came out in 2018. This was part of a series of albums that he released or co-produced on his label. Remember, there was Pusha, Tiana Taylor did a Nas album, and Kid See Ghost, which is the other one. Here's the thing: I enjoyed the majority of his albums, but I never thought I would say this. This was probably the first Kanye album I would generally consider boring. So just to look at just to recap our tier list. So I've got it in participation ribbon. Oh, you've got it as trash. And oh shit, Jack's got a backpack. So we've got quite a difference in this, which is interesting. But yeah, to me, this is so dull. I mean, even the albums that I wasn't as hot on, the other albums like Yeezus and 808s, they had moments that were interesting and exciting, but I was not wowed. Even upon re-listens, I was just kind of like just staring at the time, like when is this going to be done? Again, you know, I think the lyrics are generally quite bad. I think this album is like, it's a representation of like his deteriorating mental state. You know, obviously he's outwardly, you know, saying he's mentally ill and, you know, being diagnosed with bipolar at this point. It just kind of feels like he's spreading himself thin with the other projects that he was working on. And it's like, I just think, how is your album the worst? How do you make your album the worst one when you're doing a series of albums with people on your label? And you're like the overseer.
If this was a full-length album, I would agree with you. But as a 25-minute soundscape, it gets more of a pass. If this was an hour album, a 45 to an hour album,
right,
it would move down a tier. But for 25 minutes, that like I'm happy to sit there and listen, because this is one of the ones that I got to on my proper sound system. So like some of them I didn't get around to listening to on the proper speakers, but this, like, the production on this is as good as anything else. And when the lyrics are,
from a technical standpoint, you're saying, or
yeah,
musical?
it's not as interesting as like mixing a load of samples together and putting some composed lines on top in the horns or whatever, like he does on other albums. But like in terms of sounds chosen, balance of sounds, using like the 3D space manipulation of all the effects you can build into Logic, as well as like the spatial decisions in panning, like creating an enveloping effect, bringing people into him and this piece of work, and as a way of representing sonically what he's feeling personally. I think it works. I don't think, if every album was like this, I don't think he'd be a successful artist. But as a window into what this artist is feeling at this time, that's still showing off his technical ability.
Yeah,
I think it's good. You know,
it's an interesting opinion. I like the way you put that. Like I said, obviously we've got a difference of opinion, but you've argued the case well. So fair play.
My biggest reason for putting this in trash is just how bad it comes off. For example, like, look at
it's just how bad it is.
You've got a gap, Dennis. You've got a gap. This is the only album that kind of it's on an island of a trash island for you.
It was on Participation Ribbon for a little bit. Yeah, it was on Participation Ribbon for a little bit, but then on listening to it again, I was like, I'm not enjoying this. I'm not going to come back to this. Yeah. And like, I'll give you an example. So, for example, on Today I Thought About Killing Myself, right? Papa Roach can write a song about suicide, right? Because, you know, they're not fabulously wealthy, famous, you know, people. They can write a song about suicide that you can relate to. Yeah. When Kanye writes a song about suicide, it just ends up coming off as like ungrateful, and it's just a bit tone deaf.
You're saying, if you're equating, say, if someone's got like wealth and success to a certain level, they can't they're not allowed to be mentally ill, or not. I'm not saying that you're saying that, but as in they can't use that as the main like driver for their music. Is that what you're saying? Because I say that seems a little judgmental.
I'm not saying that they can't. I'm just saying that it's not relatable. It's not relatable. I can't listen to that and feel bad for him. You know, I can't feel bad for you that you want to slit your wrists in one of your 3 mansions. It just ends up coming off as a bit.
Can't you? Have you never seen anyone fall from grace? Like that's like not feeling bad for a king who's tried to do right for his people, and it's like not feeling bad for Othello because he's rich. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I'm torn.
Bad things can happen to
I'm very torn. I think obviously, you know, anyone can get into this position no matter what your situation is, and there's nothing you could do to help that. I think him that being a focus, it didn't work at all on the album for me. But I wouldn't go to the same level as you would, Dennis.
Would you say it's a focus? Because I heard it on this one album, because he sort of speaks about it quite openly on this. But do you think it's a focus on the rest of the songs, like his depression in general?
I mean, just look at the cover. It's thematic. I get that intro track is the first track is the most outward kind of. Yeah, it's the suicidal theme more than the others, but
I think it becomes more introspective. So, like, I think there's obviously a lack of lyrics compared to other albums, not just because the track listing is short, but also just in the way that it's structured. I feel like almost all the choices, I think, kind of fit that theme. I think this has more of a theme than some of his other albums all the way through, as like in terms of a consistent tone and like mindset.
Yeah, I mean, I see both of your points, and I think you both make interesting arguments. But yeah, it's gonna be a very subjective one. I think, other albums you kind of have to say, oh, this was well made, or this wasn't as well made. But this one, it's going to, because there's so much kind of, it's so like, I don't know, emotive, or like, in a bad place with the kind of mental illness. It's hard to kind of, it's hard to have an objective opinion, I guess.
Yeah, and
Depending on your individual experiences, and to what degree you may relate.
I will take you guys' points in that it is a bit harsh to not feel bad about him and his mental illness. I totally appreciate that it's not hard to be where he is at. I can totally appreciate that. There's a lot of pressure on him, I'm sure. Pressure coming from the media, etc. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't care for him to make music with these themes. But he, if he's feeling this way, then it can't be helped.
Yeah,
just not for me.
Absolutely. I did listen to Nasir though, the one that he produced for Nas, and yeah, absolutely love that. Mostly because you got quality lyrics and quality beats. It really works.
Okay, shall we do top tracks? So yeah, I mean, like I said, so for me, it was difficult. There were some standouts. So for me, I'm going to say Yikes, All Mine, and No Mistakes. Probably the only one that I would really liked and would probably re-listen would be Yikes, to be honest. So it was hard to pick a top tracks for this, but that one was a bit more of like a kind of upbeat, almost like straightforward hip hop track, which I was looking for and didn't find amongst the rest. Dennis? I think you muted yourself again.
Sorry, I mute myself when I'm clicking around.
But you just have nothing to say.
It's hard to pick.
Do you want me to go first and you have more time to think?
No, I'll get it out of the way. So yeah, Yikes. Yikes I kind of enjoyed. I thought about Kill Myself is actually, I would actually put it up there in term, just because it's like a poem. It's something that I can see myself coming back to, because there is like depth there. So yeah, I would sort of, it's not like handing anything on a plate for you. There is an attempt at artistry there. So like I said, it is a bit like a poem.
I like the instrumental in the beat switch at the end, but I don't like his delivery. Like the beat is hard in the last quarter when it switches, but yeah.
What does it sound a bit too much like just spoken word?
He's just kind of got the kind of rough kind of, like, I don't know, Yeezus delivery, but it just isn't as good. I don't know, it's not as, I don't know, it doesn't feel as like, I don't know, genuine, like he's really into the track.
See, that comes off to me as earnest. It comes off to me as like he's stripped away all the effects and he's just sort of laying his heart on the table.
Yeah, I think just generally the whole thing with the album is I'm so used to Kanye being like, having so much attention to detail. When I think of like my favorites like Late Registration and Dark Twisted Fantasy, there are just pits where I'm like, where is the detail? Where is the afterthought? Or kind of like how Jack felt about Watch the Throne. I feel like it's missing. It's missing that attention to detail in places. But sorry to interrupt on your tracks.
It's hard for me to pick a third one. I'll just have to sort of randomly choose.
I mean, if you've only got two, you've only got two, man.
Yeah, I would say it's
a trash tier for you.
Yeah.
Jack?
For me, I'd go Ghost Town. I feel like Party Next Door brought something to the album. I feel like, it's been a long time since Kanye had this much work where he's like the only focal point of a track. Do you know what I mean? So like having Party Next Door was probably like a refreshing element for him, and I think it worked on the two tracks they're on. I think No Mistakes as well, like like Hattie said. And then I thought about Killing You. I really liked, like it read as genuine to me. Like Dennis was saying, it kind of I could see how that was it's just same as Roses or like Through the Wire or something, it's like a glimpse into the real person behind the kind of celebrity facade.
Good point. Right. Yeah. Okay. So last two now. So like I said, again, next one is Kids See Ghosts. This is another collaborative album with Kid Cudi. So this is part of the 5 albums that he released in the same year. So in 2018. So yeah. So to just go back to our rankings, me and Jack have it on Fire, and Dennis has it on Backpack. So we're in a similar place. We either like or really like it. Yeah, for me, just listening to this back to back with Ye, even at the time and upon re-listen, I don't know how it's possible an album of this quality came out in the same time period or from the same recording sessions as his solo album. I think this is amazing front to back. Obviously, it's another short one, and that I like every track. It's like I said, I love that it's concise and it's replayable. I mean, again, like I said, on Ye for me, it just sounds so uninteresting. It's almost like an awkward listen. But on this, he's energetic. His rapping is decent. It's not like his best. Like he doesn't deliver like his best verses ever. But I think all of his verses are like fit and. Yeah, it's on point, and I'm not even really a big like Cudi fan either. But I think I like all of Cudi's like verses and hooks. I think he delivers really well, and they complement each other.
To me, like thinking of the thinking of it being like a recording session where like you'll have, especially if it's in-house, you won't necessarily have like, I'm working on this album for this week. You'll have like, we're going to do this for the 3 hours while Kid Cudi's in, and then like later on I'm doing my own shit. It's like they did this kind of 8 to midnight or whatever, and then for midnight he went and did his own album till like 4 in the morning or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like this is.
It just feels so different.
It's not a party album, but if you're comparing the two back to back, this is like, the more energetic and kind of extrovert rather than introvert.
Exactly.
The pairing.
It's just and again, like I said, in terms of kind of both artists and the quality of like the lyricism, it hits the spot. But aside from that, for me as well, I love the production. Again, so this is one where I feel like the production is great, and then the lyrics kind of or vocals parts kind of live up to it. But the production, it's just so weird and eerie and unique. It's one of the most interesting production wise, I think, from his whole discography. It's kind of got almost like a blend of like psychedelic rock and jazzy sounds kind of mixed in with hip hop. It's I just think it's a unique
there's
project.
There's a lot of collaboration on this album in terms of like production. Obviously there has been a lot in terms of like engineering, but for this specifically there's a lot of named producers for each track as well. And I feel like a lot of it's, I mean, it's just like it's the who's of the good music producers basically, and I feel like there's you see that influence because it's got a lot of cross. I mean, there's a clear Venn diagram between this and Ye in terms of like sonic choices, sounds used. It's just the way that they're used is different between the albums. So I think both of them are really interesting kind of soundscapes.
I can see the similarities on the sonic aspect. I guess in terms of the kind of it seems so weird that they came out in terms of kind of like the quality level, or again what I was talking about in terms of the amount of time spent perfecting every element. It feels like it was there with this, and there's nothing that's been recorded and just been like, that's it. Yeah, that first take's good to go. This feels so like meticulous as an album.
I also feel like there's part of because it was a smaller team on Ye. He still had other people, but like that's kind of part of the aesthetic I feel like he was going for, though, is that kind of imperfection, and it's that balance between like commercialism isn't a bad thing. It's what gives you kind of pristine sounds and good stuff like that. But then it's that balance between authenticity and commercialism that's like the hard thing to match up.
I guess it's just what he's done so many sounds. It's kind of what do you like specifically? What are the sounds of the elements that you gravitate towards? And like I said again, for me, this one hit it in most places. Dennis, what are your thoughts? So you were slightly less hot than me and Jack, but still liked it.
Yeah, still liked it. Uh, what Jack just said, that yeah, it's hard to get that balance between commercialism and genuineness. I think yeah, he hits that a lot better on this album than the previous album. Well, the Yay. Um, it's not previous. I think I'm not sure when it was released, but yeah,
It
it's
came
around the
out
same
a
time.
week or two before, I think. Yeah.
For example, I think Kanye's verse on Reborn is really, really honest. He's talking about being on meds. He's talking about the situation that he's in at the moment. Um, and yeah, I think it starts about 127-ish, 125-ish. And yeah, enjoyed that song, Fourth Dimension. I enjoyed the sampling on that. And again, like I said before, I like how Kanye fits his samples. I think he's got some old Christmas song.
That sample is just
what will
such a good
Santa
flip.
Claus say?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the one. And yeah, he's just a master at fitting that into a beat. So
also, it halfway through that track when it just cuts and it's just that evil, like demonic screaming. It's just. I just think who thought to put that in, but it works so well. There's so many melodies that there's even on like Feel the Love when there's that. It's just again you're just like what? Like first time I listened to it, I was like what the fuck? But then upon re-listens, I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah,
this is stuck in my head.
I was reading the lyrics, and it is actually written as "ragagaga" in the lyric sheet.
Yeah, and it's kind of like almost like he's doing that as like a rhythmic element to the drums in the backbeat. It's just genius.
That bit works. But I will sort of say I'm not so hot on "Feel the Love" in general. I think it's one of those.
Still feel the love.
That bit is actually a little bit annoying.
I on occasion I will just sing. I will just out the blue just sing that to Natalie, just to like surprise her. Just be silly, so they'll be like, "Feel the love." She'll be like,
bit of an inside joke.
Yeah.
Jokes. Another thing I don't like, hot take, Pusha T. I'm not a fan of Pusha T at all.
Oh yeah. I forgot this is one of your many hot takes.
Yeah.
Bro, you're like hitting the greatest hits, but they're worst for you. Like there's this 3 times in this episode you've just dropped bombs about hip hop gods.
I have to keep things interesting, I guess. But one thing I will say is I liked was Yasin Bey. Yasin Bey's on this. He's it's very Mos Def.
You will always be Mos Def to me. Fuck the name switch. How are you going to have one of the best names in hip hop and then change it?
True. But when you do say that, though, it harkens back to Cassius Clay and Muhammad Ali.
Right, it's a religious thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like he wants to be called that.
Yeah, I agree. I love him. And matter of fact, I love every feature on this album. Pusha T, Ty Dolla again. I love Ty Dolla in general.
Ty Dolla killed it.
Oh yeah, free is well. We'll get to best tracks, but like that is up there for me.
Yeah, easy.
With Ty Dolla not carrying, but like he's so important on that song. Obviously,
he's like he's only listed as a lyricist for it, but he's got such a good musical brain. Like I find it difficult to believe that he doesn't have some kind of impact on any track that he features on.
Yeah. I mean, on that track specifically, his vocals are so layered, like the harmonies. It's obviously there's going to be a compositional element to get that he would have had to get that. So you're right. Yeah, it's more than just the feature, at least on that one.
Yeah.
Should we? Any other thoughts, or should we do top tracks?
Let's do top tracks.
An ultimate. Okay. Yeah. So again, for me, it was hard to pick, but from a perspective, as opposed to on Yay, where it was hard to pick because I didn't really want to listen to it. On this, it was hard to pick because I liked every track. But yeah, I would say my favorites were Fourth Dimension, primarily for that sample that we mentioned. Free. Again, yeah, just a huge epic soundscape with Ty Dolla, and then the title track Kids See Ghosts. I think this one has my favorite Kanye verse on the album, so worth a re-listen to his verse specifically. This is potentially for me one of his best verses in years up until that point, potentially since Pablo.
Which song was that again? Sorry?
Kids See Ghosts. So Kanye's verse on this is my favorite verse of his on the album, and like I said,
I love that
verses.
I love that, and yeah, I love Mos Def's verse in that because it's short, but at the same time it's like packed, and it seems as though he's put a lot of thought into it at the same time.
Mos Def is so cool. Like he's just the dude, right? Because he's one of the best lyricists of all time, I think. But he can just go on a track like that, and he's just doing like a singing thing. He's not really spitting bars, but it's still, you're like, that's all you need to do. That's all you need to do is to cement your greatness and remind people of how good you are.
Yeah, that was enough Mos Def for me, to be honest. So yeah, Kids See Ghosts was great. Fourth Dimension was great, and Reborn, I think was great. Just yeah, for that earnest Kanye verse.
I'd say mostly similar. I think Free is probably my favorite on the album. Then Kids See Ghosts.
Sometimes.
And maybe Feel the Love. Maybe Fire. Fire for the boy Andre.
Yeah. But it could change on a given day. That's I find a marker of a good album, because I could definitely have a different 3 in the future. Right, okay, so we'll wrap this up with the last one. So Jesus is King, 2019, the most new album. Another left turn in a career of left turns. I mean, so my notes on this, I'll just read it exactly as I've written it. Jesus Walks is how you do Christian rap. This ain't it for me. So this I'm sorry. Like this album, right? So it largely loses the hip hop aesthetic completely.
It's not Christian rap.
No,
I think that's underselling what it is.
Okay, but for me, when I listen to this, I just hear like rhyming over gospel music, and that's not what I want. That's not what I want. It's a severe disappointment in his discography, and I kind of feel like at this point his faith has overtaken his like persona. And I guess we're going to look at it from a journey of probably obviously he's had the issue with bipolar and depression, and this is I guess a way out, and that's fine. Whatever you need as a person, but just from in terms of do I enjoy this? No, not at all. So yeah, I mean, so this is another one. Looking at the tiers, actually, we're all over the place, kind of like Jesus.
I didn't down a fifth of scotch before I listened to this, like Dennis did, but I went in with like quite low expectations. I went in expecting it to be laughable, but what I actually found, like musically, I thought was really good.
It was more interesting than Ye for me. That's what I will say.
I loved the balancing of the elements. The choir that he got was obviously fantastic. The production was clean as it's ever been. The lyrical content is what you expect, but like at least it wasn't like I wanted old like school hip hop bars after bars after bars, and what I got was like, "Hey, isn't God really good?" I was expecting "Hey, isn't God really good?" and I got "Hey, isn't God really good?" So like, I got what I wanted. Well, I got what I expected. If I'd gone in with different emotive like bullet points to aim for, I feel like I would have been let down. But
right, just got to have an open mind.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't go into this with an expectation. Well, actually, I went into this not expecting a hip hop album. I went into this expecting a gospel album. And
just as a reminder before you go into it, fire for you, dude. This is on the level of College Dropout and My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. This is probably the hottest take of the afternoon.
Sorry. You were saying earlier, like it's Christian rap, right? It's definitely like this is not how you do Christian rap, but this is not Christian rap. This is how you do gospel in 2020. If you want to release a gospel album,
it's not. It's not. I accept it's not Christian rap. It is a gospel album.
Yeah,
with a rapper,
and it slaps as a gospel album.
Yeah, like so.
I ain't listening to gospel. Sorry.
From the first track, I felt the fucking spirit. Like the first track. This this is powerful. Like if I was Christian, this would be a mind-blown album. It's got great production and it's earnest. I mean, for me, this sounded like Kanye coming back on form, because throughout I was thinking, oh shit, he's rapping about something he actually cares about.
But here's the thing. I appreciate what you're saying about the earnesty, but all I can listen to, again, I'm coming from the perspective of someone that kind of doesn't like organized religion, and all I can see, like I said, I appreciate he's being genuine, but I just see an institution that's preyed on the vulnerable. So the institution of Christianity has preyed on Kanye and kind of taken him under his wing.
I feel like
changed his personality.
I feel like that's really cynical, but I also feel like to take an objective battle against that, I feel like he got more out of it than they got of him.
Yeah, I agree.
Because he was obviously out there giving sermons at one point and stuff like that, but I feel like this album is such a rise from the place he was in. This is such a like triumphant return. Like Dennis is saying, this is a huge circle back to his gospel and soul samples from way back in the day.
But I think it's fleeting. I think it's fleeting. I accept that, for obviously, let's not get into the debating religion argument. But I think it's an example of how it's fleeting, because sure, okay, let's say with Ye, clearly he was in a very bad place, and on this album he's joyous and whatever. But then now we look at a year later, and he's like, ran for president, and I don't know if you saw any clips of like him on the campaign runs, but he was just wild. He was just saying the wildest shit, and out of his mind again. So this has just been a temporary fix, but it's not the be all and end all. And I find when something kind of changes your entire personality like that, which I kind of feel like this had, it's not a good thing.
Do you feel like that though? I don't feel like it had that effect on him.
Well,
I feel like this is a very different work than he's released before, but we've said that about 4 albums so far. Like, I feel like this was a jump that he took as an artist, but I wouldn't say it's too out of character. It's just a different influence on him at a different time in his life.
Yeah, it's not a whole complete change, but it's, I guess I'll walk that back. I'm just saying it's not something it's just not something that's gonna be a permanent fix.
Also,
so I don't see the value in it. Sorry.
I'll pick up on something that you just said, that this was sort of the church preying on the weak. I don't think I fully agree with that. I think his Christianity has given him some kind of grounding. I think when you're so stratospherically famous and you were born with such a crazy ego as Kanye, that really the only thing that will bring you down to earth is being awed by something like far greater than you. So I think
that's a good point.
I think like what Jack says, he's got more from becoming a Christian and from the Christian community than the other way around.
You're right. You're both right. I'm just very cynical on this topic. So this is having like a biased like influence on how I feel.
It's a hell of a step from Yeezus releasing an album called Yeezus with tracks like "I Am a God" and all of the lyrics that he's got about him. He's not even saying "I'm as good as." He's got lyrics literally saying "I am God." Like, he's to take a step from that to the mental progression it takes to put yourself in part of a religion. That's such a development for him as a person. And like this album, I almost think is kind of just they're not necessarily even linked. He could have, I feel like he could have decided to make this album without becoming heavily invested in Christianity. Like, I feel like he could go out tomorrow and make an album, because it's only 25 minutes. I feel like he could write 10 3-minute tracks about how the state of agricultural cow farming is in South America right now. Do you know what I mean?
Mm. Like this has raised his level in general.
Yeah, but I also feel like he could make an album about anything. Like whatever his life is about at that time.
I don't know, because
he's going to produce.
You got to put. Yeah, I was going to say I saw him on Joe Rogan, and from that I saw how powerful Christianity was for him, and just how much
he was talking absolute bullshit though. I mean, obviously that interview was more focused around the political campaign or whatever. But to me, I'm just like this is a man that needs to get back on medication.
I disagree. I felt the opposite. I felt as though he came off very rational. Like, for example, he was talking about building a stadium where he would get like a 20,000 person choir to sing about God. I got that because
this is insane.
That
dude.
would be sick.
Exactly, because that's how much he cares about God. That's how much Christians in general view God.
That would just be sick as like a musical experiment.
This is a waste of time and resources.
Well, no, it is, unless you truly believe that there is a creator that created all of this.
Yes, I know.
We should be in awe at his feet.
Yeah, I guess I just look at this and I see someone that's brainwashed, and I miss something from the past where you were getting like a not an honest, genuine, because I get it, it's honest and genuine, but it's still a form of brainwashing that's on display on this album and how he is as a person around this time.
Before we devolve into a discussion about Christianity, I will say that Christianity is the foundation of our society, and we wouldn't have a society with laws if it wasn't for it. So,
well, that's not necessarily true. We wouldn't have the laws that we have, maybe, but I would say an equal part of our society comes from Greece, which was kind of pre-Christian. So
that is true.
We for fans and viewers, we are probably gonna sever some ties and cause some big issues with this discussion. So maybe we should bring it back to some top tracks and end it.
Sure.
Okay. So me, like I said, the one thing I would say,
I'm almost tempted to move this up to backpat after those conversations. To be fair, like I want to back this album more after that conversation. But I'll give it another listen based on our discussions, because you've raised some interesting points, and about Ye, which obviously I wasn't hot on as well. You guys have raised some points that made me think. Well, Dennis hasn't, but Jack, the points you had about Ye made me think. I mean, the one thing I would say as a positive of this album, despite the fact that I don't like the content, is that at least he didn't drop any bars that were like horrendously cringy. That's one thing. There were no bleached arseholes, no without cum. He was no alien sex.
Yeah, he cares about something other than himself.
Yeah, it wasn't. There was nothing so cringeworthy. But anyway. So my top tracks. Like I said, there were some things I liked on here. I liked Selah. I liked Follow God, which I guess was the most traditional hip hop sounding song, which I think is why I like that. And then Use This Gospel. That's the other one I digged. Again, you kind of I love clips. So hearing like Pusha T and Malice on the track was great.
So sorry, bringing back Timbaland for this album as well.
I thought you were going to say bringing back Christianity. It was like
took a 2,000-year nap. But yeah, like I've not noticed Timbaland for a while. But then he's obviously I felt like going through, I could kind of guess which tracks were the ones where I think mostly at the end of the album. You could see which were the ones that had that kind of influence.
I would feel the opposite, because I would if I heard some like Middle Eastern instrumental, I would be like, yeah, this is Timbaland, but this is I was going to say this is Israel, not Palestine, but again, let's not get into further debates. Dennis, top tracks.
I thought Every Hour was again a sick opener. I thought it was powerful in general.
Right. You saw the light at this point. The sun rose.
Like I said, if I was a Christian, this would be a mind-blown album. Like you can feel the spirit throughout. You can feel the earnest belief and the love for God and Jesus that he has throughout. Which, if I was a Christian, I was listening to it sort of with that temporary hat on,
with your popes.
Which is, I guess it's easier for me because a lot of my family are Christian. So I know that. I mean, like fanatically Christian. Like,
right.
a couple of Christmases ago, I remember bringing up that that I'm an atheist to my aunt, and the next day they sat me down and they got me a Bible. Like,
What? When? How old were you?
This was like 2016, so this is like a few years
damn.
ago. Yeah. So yeah, I understand the kinds of people who would so vibe with this. Gospel it's a huge gospel music is a huge industry. I mean, if you're not Christian, you're not into it, but it is huge. What other one? Every Hour, great. Follow God, I think, is great. He talks about like reconciling with his father in that a little bit. So he's talking about God the Father and his own father as well. It's kind of good. And what was the last one that was on here? Which was I think Everything We Need. The
Ty Dolla track.
Yeah, the harmonies on that are really good. But I've got to be honest, I haven't sat with this as much. I kind of listened to this late, and I was kind of putting it off because I thought I don't want to listen to a gospel album, but it ended up surprising me.
Fair enough, Jack.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how our discussion of the album has gone, because I studied philosophy and ethics as well. I think I'm a bit more to Dennis's side than Hattie's with this, but like it's nice to see that his monotheistic religion about himself became a polytheism and he included God. Like, it's nice looking at it from that angle. But I also just didn't cross my mind. Like, the fact that his lyrical content is about that did not seem the most pertinent part of this album when I listened to it. Like, it's a really powerful album. It obviously fits a particular style, but a lot of his stuff fits a particular style that's varied. It harks back to his older works, which I really enjoyed. By the end of it, I wasn't as like into it as I was at the start, but Every Hour, Seller, and Everything We Need, so the two starting tracks, and then the one with Ty Dolla and Ant Clemens on, were probably the standouts for me. I feel like if any artist is going to do a gospel album, I'd pick Kanye. Like, I probably wouldn't have. Actually, no. You know what? I probably would have prior to him becoming Christian. If he was going to do a gospel album, I probably still would have picked him. It just would have been lyrics about himself.
Yeah, like, Jesus is his non-Christian Christian album. Right. Okay. So that wraps it up. So it was a long one, understandably, but an interesting discussion. So we won't keep people any longer. I think we'll just say goodbye. And I don't know what we're doing. We haven't discussed what we're going to do for next episode.
No, I think there were a few albums dropped towards the end of last year, sort of in December. Which we could check out, but yeah,
maybe we'll look at one of those. But anyway, we'll
have a topic discussion up at some point as well.
Yeah, we'll get out a discussion and a review as soon as possible. But yeah, so we've been the Record Players Podcast. Thanks for watching or listening.
Subscribe on YouTube.
Yes, follow us on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts. We're on all of them. Later.
Peace.